Hello everyone, it's your favorite FGC VTuber joined with special guest, Mar. Say hi, Mar.
Yes, guys, ladies and gentlemen, the greatest hater is here, and we are here to say hate too much on Dragon Ball, but we got some things to talk about.
Right, exactly. So you see this is going to be a review. I have no idea how I'm going to put this in parts depending how long we're going to off on this. Of course, it'd be Sparking Zero. Now, normally this is actually the fourth in the series. It's usually Dragon Ball Z Boudakai Tenkaichi, and it goes from 1 to 3 to 4, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Mar?
When it goes Dragon Ball Z, then I mean, if you really want to be like anal with it, it goes Dragon Ball, then Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT, which a lot of people don't even count as canon, then Super, and then going into like all the other series, like we just got Dragon Ball Diamond that just dropped a couple weeks ago on that. So I mean, if you want to go in chronological order, then basically have, I'd say it's Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, and before the 10-year time jump, before you get into that, the end of Dragon Ball Z on the Super, and that's supposed to fill in the 10-year time gap. And then afterwards, you either go GT, which I highly do not recommend, or
like
even
GT.
if you're adding Dragon Ball Daima, that's like literally like a week after they beat Kid Buu in the Dragon Ball Z series.
Right.
So a lot of the new stuff is basically in between times to sort of explain, like, okay, what the hell were we doing between this time and this time type of deal.
Yep, thank you very much, Mark. So yeah, but this huge disclaimer. So the way this comes is because I'm gonna be coming from the perspective as me as a very casual Dragon Ball fan. As you can tell, he knows way more. So he's gonna be the Dragon Ball fan, so you guys can get a double perspective. That's one of the reasons I wanted to bring Mar onto this video. And parts of it, it's also like this is what the beginning segment is. What exactly is Dragon Ball Budokai Tenkaichi, right? And thanks for explaining the series as well. Is that this is a fighting game, obviously, an arena fighting game, but arguably the peak, and also only one of the progenitors in a sense of the arena fighting genre. And it's been extremely anticipated, right? Like I mean, were you not excited when they announced this game?
Oh man, I was extremely hyped when they first announced this game, and I'm so happy that they did because we got to see a bunch of fans just kind of coming out of the woodwork and pure excitement, and just off the hype alone, like it was actually a lot of fun.
Yeah, and to me, like I said, you guys check out my other two videos where I talk about some of the cutscenes or whatever. And to me, I like Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi for what it is, the game that. So again, I'm playing it for what it is, not what it's not supposed to be. And we'll disclaim, you guys check out the videos about whether it's a fighting game or not. That's not what this is about. We are 100% viewing this as a product for what it is. And mine's from a perspective of a casual fan and it's a video game. And Mar is a Dragon Ball fan, right? Would you not agree with that, Mar?
Yeah, we could definitely agree with that.
Yeah. And with that being said, let's just getting all the introductions into what exactly Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 4 is. Because I hate Sparking Zero. I think that name is stupid. And one of the first elements I want to talk about, you guys see, the opening menu is fine, whatever. Personally, I'm not a big fan of the intro song. I think it's whatever. I mean, what are your thoughts on at least the intro song to start off with the UI? I'm curious.
It's alright. Like it's nothing that's like completely out of nowhere. Like, oh my god, like, oh, it's the best. It's serviceable, at least for me.
Fair enough. And then, all right, as you guys can see, you guys gives you your options, and yeah, that's the first thing we want to talk about. The options in this game are not half bad. There are actually some really good, decent. Like you can get like motion blur quality, whatever. I always turn that stuff off. You could choose if you want to get rid of the camera shake. There's decent other options, combo assist. That's the first thing I'm so glad that I love doing it through this way. I think decent options, and of course you can even put your control style, and I recommend classic if you came from the original series, but if you want to, you can also go the normal pet. There is an issue with it, but we will discuss that later in the bugs and issues problem. But as you guys can see, decent actual options, and you can even change the voice as well, so that's very good. But outside of that, very basic for the most part. I do like that there's a high dynamic range you can put on, and you can even put the brightness up for if it's SDR, which is super fucking accurate. And yeah, and that should get off to one of the other things to notice, as I'll also be looking at this as an indie dev, and I am very familiar with Unreal Engine 5, not 4 though. I believe this is 4 if I'm not mistaken. And that's one of the things I want to get off the bat that people talked about a lot. This game does live up in its sense to the roster, because that was the one thing that I was so contingent about. Like, are they going to be able to have more than 180 characters? And the fact they were able to pull it off is pretty good. But to me, as a non-Dragon Ball fan, I only cared about the characters I want. So I'm the kind of person, as long as my characters are in there, I don't care. The game could have had 100 characters, I wouldn't have cared. But there are definitely some legacy characters that I think people would have really liked. But I also feel like it's a balance because they got a lot of Dragon Ball Super characters, which I personally don't care for. Mar, what are your thoughts on the roster, and how are you upset that some of the ones that they're missing? And do you feel that them bringing some of the super helps mitigate that, or do you feel like no, they should have also brought super along with some of these other characters? What are your thoughts on that?
The giant plus when it comes to all the characters that we do have available, we have up to 182 characters in total, which is absolutely insane. Like you have Frieza, Forte, Willow, Turles, like all the movie characters. Like there's a crazy amount of characters in here, but there's still a couple characters that are completely missing in this game. My fan favorite character Pycon is nowhere to be seen in this game, and that really disappoints me. Another good character is actually Super 17. I'm not gonna lie, they probably are holding him until they find a way to actually balance him, because he'll probably be the most broken character in this entire game due to the fact that he's an android. He's able to absorb crazy amounts of attacks, and I mean the androids kind of feel a little broken on here. We'll talk about that a little later. Overall, I do believe that some of the characters that they didn't add into the game, they're probably going to be DLC later on. Because obviously, I mentioned a little earlier, Dragon Ball Daima is a new show that just came out. And I'm pretty sure over time, we're going to see characters from that show hit this game. Just so you have like the full-on roster of like the representation of every single type of character from every aspect of Dragon Ball except for Evolution. We do not talk about Evolution. You're here to hear Evolution. You're a terrible person, and you belong in the museum with. But other than that, I do like the selection of characters that are still here. Yeah, they don't have my boy Pycon, but I mean, we still have Tapion, we still have Rudigarn, we still have Sin and Omega Shenron. We have the wolf guy from Super. We have Dispo. Yeah, we have like 18,000 Gokus, but in all honesty, it's kind of expected. If you didn't expect that to happen, I mean, you really haven't been paying attention to Dragon Ball. But man, there's just a huge amount of characters that they could have been adding into this game. Like, I can imagine eventually you start adding all the other gods of destruction. I don't know if you know this, but like, besides Beerus and his brother Champa, which I'm pretty sure if you played through the story, you saw like the fat version of Beerus. So you're like, oh shit, there's another one. Oh, there's like a shit ton of other characters that are also considered gods of destruction that aren't put into this game. That they did have like a little like exhibition battle against each other inside the anime and the manga as well. And another thing too that I would also say that they're gonna eventually add is a lot of characters from the manga. Because I don't know if you know this, but it continues after Goku and friends finish off the Tournament of Power. You get more of a backstory of like the Saiyans and that, the original natives of the planet Vegeta and what ended up happening with them.
I like that.
You get a sorcerer named Moro. He is absolutely bonkers. I'm actually excited if they actually put him in this game. He might end up being my main. That's how freaking awesome. Vegeta also has forms that are in here as well.
Oh, true. The form about that.
Yes, you have the Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta evolution, which is basically like the Super Saiyan 2 of Super Saiyan Blue. He also has another form called Ultra Ego, which is basically opposite of Goku's instinct. They also didn't put that into this game.
I love that.
Then one other character I could definitely see eventually would be Granola, which he's an absolutely OP character, and one that ended up happening just before Dragon Ball went on its hiatus. The reveal of Frieza's black form. Yes, there's Frieza Black. If you guys didn't know, he went through 10 years of like History Month training, and he came out literally black and one-shotted both Goku and Vegeta with that form, which is absolutely insane. Now, you also have Beast Gohan. That's now also in here. God, man, there's actually a lot of characters there. But regardless, you'll definitely be happy with the amount of characters they actually did put in the game. Like, unless you're like a true diehard, like, oh man, I need all these characters from Dragon Ball in every aspect. Like, oh, where are all my dragon forms? Like, all the different black dragons for the GT arc, for those who remember that. First of all 3 of you are very shocking that you even exist. Me included into that 3, by the way. And yeah, there'll be some awesome characters from there. You have Ice, Nova, Shenron, who else? There's a crap ton of other characters that they need to add into this game. 100%. This to me is kind of like the Smash Bros of Dragon Ball.
Absolutely.
Where I want to be able to say everyone is here.
Right.
I want to be able to say that. And down the line, we might actually have that, and that would be great. But until then, I mean, you'll definitely be satisfied with every character.
Actually, that was great, dude. See, I'm glad I have you. You could talk way more about this shit than I ever, because I'm not a fan, and it saves my fucking throat from destroying itself. But that's one of the reasons I think I'm glad he just came up with it, right? Because, like, yeah, I think that's one of the, when it comes to Dragon Ball Z Boudakai Tenkaichi, one of the #1 things is the roster, and the fact they were able to at least deliver is really impressive, because that's something that I doubted, right? But then when I realized they're using, so this, to tell you guys, developer, how were they able to do it? I mean, historically, Dragon Ball Boudakai Tenkaichi kind of just palette swaps, and this one feels less palette swappy. Would you not agree than even the other one? Like, it doesn't feel like they're just reusing the same animations, right? Would you not agree with that?
No, they're definitely not only just using the same animations. Right. I mean, for the fact that this game is even running on live, and they actually like shoved all of this content into this, like just characters wise, and like their different abilities that they have, like even in the Goku aspect, like yeah, you have early Goku, mid Goku, and late Goku. they all do not have the same normal attack and then special attack and then your ultimate. Like they have different aspects of themselves just because they're in different points of Goku's life. Like, of course, the early Goku concentrating more on just the Kaioken, mid Goku when he eventually turns into a Super Saiyan form, and then later on when Goku gets a Super Saiyan 3 form, and of course the Super version, where he finally gets to transform into God. Like, they all have different aspects. Like, yeah, they have basically a variation of the Kamehameha, but they're all completely different from
Which,
one
by
another.
the way, shout outs to them for doing so many. They did not have facet. Like, the animations are actually different for all the Kamehameha. So, and that's the main. So, obviously, they retain that. Tenkaichi's always had that, but I was obviously referring far more to the animation. So, now you guys know that when it comes to that, it's retained what Tenkaichi's always had. If anything, it's improved upon it, because now there's so many different variations of the Kamehameha. I just look at Maximilian's video rating it. But to me, it's like, I think even animation-wise, like, outside of, I think the heavies to a degree, certain characters have the same ones, with the exception of the big characters. But generally, when Boudakai Tenkaichi would do is they would have, like, a base template. Okay, everyone's jabs are the same, everyone's heavies in the same. I feel like there's less repeating frames in here than ever before. Because, like I said, if the Kamehamehas are all fucking different, I could be wrong to a degree, but it just genuinely doesn't feel like, because in old Budokai Tenkaichi, what they were is they were literally palette swaps, but with different attributes. In here, they genuinely feel like different characters. Would you not agree?
Yeah, no, I would agree 100%.
Right. So thank you very much for that one. And again, lastly, when it comes to the DLC, is like, to me, I mean, here's the best way to put it. What would you rate the roster right now? What would you currently rate it? Right, if even if 3 aspects.
I would give it a solid A. I feel like there's a good enough variety of characters in here. A lot of characters that I would like to try that I haven't even tried yet. They have the what's his character's name? One of the characters from Super that, or actually the entire team. I think it was like Universe 8 or something like that. That's like extremely hated, where it's just like a bunch of knockoffs of Sailor Moon. They don't have the leader in this game yet, and I'm pretty sure that's because like they're probably working on her balance wise. But like her other 2 companions are on here, which that's a definite plus because at least you'd be able to get a feel of what that character would actually play like once it eventually comes out. And then the wolf guy, there's actually 2 other brothers of the wolf, but at least you get one variation of those 3. And then I'm pretty sure once you implement them into like the team battle and that, you could use like their triple attack together and like attack your opponents in that. Which I'm also wondering, one thing we didn't try, and I kind of want to touch base on that, I completely forgot about it. I'm wondering if you're able to choose your teams online, and if you're using an ultimate with one of the characters, like, do other characters come together and team up with you and also use the attacks?
Were they able to do that in the old? I mean, like I said, that's a whole different thing. That's just more comparisons and like fan service and nitpick. I don't think it overall affects it that hard, if that makes sense. I think to a degree, because there's already, we'll talk about it a bit more, but there's already some features that they did bring back and others that they did not, and we will discuss that, right? So this would be a bigger thing, but yeah, that's something we could just test later on, and we can add that to the video of comparing Budokai Tenkaichi 2 to...
Yeah, this game is definitely 100% like fan service. The game, like, if you're a huge Dragon Ball fan, this game is definitely for you. If you don't know really much about Dragon Ball, I feel like this game gives you like a good aspect of what Dragon Ball is all about.
Yeah,
you don't really get too lost. I mean, timeline wise, you'll probably get a little lost, and we'll touch base on that once we start talking about like the story missions and that.
So
but like overall, I feel like you get an idea of what this game is.
I would say, so you said 8, right? For you, an 8? 8.
Yeah, I'll give it an 8. Yeah.
For me personally, I give it a 9, and my reasoning because is at the end of the day, I only mainly care it has the characters that I want. And the other thing is, there's just some things I just don't give a shit about Super. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I would give it a 10 if Super characters weren't here. This is just me. I just do not give a I think Super Saiyan God is the stupidest shit on earth. Same with Ultra Instinct. Like, wasn't that what Kaioken kind of was to a degree? But that's just whatever. It's just a non-Dragon Ball fan, right? To me, Super Saiyan 4 Goku is, like, the coolest shit. As long as I have him, Broly, and then there's different tiers of whatever. And also that, like, the little weird guest character girl. Whatever. Like, I play the game for what it is, and I wish there was more, like, those niche characters or variety characters. I would have really liked that. So to me, I give it a 9. Because at the end of the day, it mainly has the characters I really like. But I would definitely like those other extra characters, even if I don't really use them. Because I like that variety. To me, that's... Like I said, now, I just love that it's a big... I think anybody... you're absolutely right. What you said? 100% correct. Even as a normie, like, oh, no, it's not that hard to catch up to date. I think, like... Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, so we won't track too much. So 8, 9. And with that being said, I want to switch over to the UI. I mean, there's anything else you want to leave off as far as the roster? Or are you good?
Oh no, roster is pretty solid, and like I said, like an 8 is fair. The only reason why it's getting an 8 because there's a crap ton of characters that I just got the naming that aren't even in the game that they could have put in the game, but I kind of feel like they're milking it,
Oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
that's the reason why they get the 8.
Right. Last one for disclaimer, so because this is the first part and it's whatever, and I probably might put this in a separate part, is that I also want to rate this as fully as a product because I feel sometimes the price can really get in the way. And at the end of the day, I'm looking at this as if it's 60. That's the way I'm looking, because at the end of the day, I say this once and I say again, no product is worth $70 fucking. They're genuinely just taking your money. I hope you guys. And at the end of the day, this technically is a cash grab. Like I said, the only reason we have, like, this is my theory. They saved up Tenkaichi because let's make all these other Dragon Ball games, like a good example, even Kakarot, which we'll make it to another point later. That way we can have all the models, give them all the con, excuse it for the money. Then we can lease Tenkaichi so we can have, because they knew that the roster was gonna be the biggest thing that people were gonna rate this game on, and that's why we talked about it first. And when you have all the models ready, of course you can do that, right? And of course, the fact that they're even still making other stuff DLC goes to further show that, yeah, they're making you on top of paying $70, right? If we're talking price, this game is not worth this price. I can't stress that enough. So if you're buying this, it's because you actually have the extra money. Right off the bat, I'll tell you, wait for your sale. Like, would you not agree with that, Mar? Like, I am, like, it feels like too, I'll say this much right off the bat, like I said, because if we're talking monetary, it's just not that worth it. Like, you should definitely, because we're in an economic crisis in this kind of point. Like, if you have genuinely the spare money and it's not that big of a deal, throw the 70. But trust me, as it stands right now, wait for a sale. Other people are definitely waiting. This game is not, this isn't, out of all the products I've seen, I haven't seen a single one that's worth 70, and this isn't breaking that. Just as a mini disclaimer. Would you not agree, to get that out the way? Because I want to
Oh
rate
yeah,
it.
even as a nostalgic Dragon Ball fan like I am, like I was really hesitant to even get the $70 version. Just because I feel like most games these days like it shouldn't even cost over 50, to be honest, because a lot of the content that they're adding into the game is either very lackluster or just half baked.
Mm-hmm.
And this game, I'm not saying anything in this game is really half baked or anything like
But
that,
it's not
but
70. It's not.
I will definitely say that no game is worth $70, and I too would agree. Like it'd definitely be a better idea for you to wait until it hits a sale. And just so happens the holiday season is around, so
Right,
it's
right.
not like you're gonna have to wait a long time. I say give it like another week or so. You'll probably start seeing good sales, and you might be able to pick this up for like $15, maybe $20 off. Which I would recommend. If it's $20 off, definitely
Perfect,
buy it.
yeah.
But I'm pretty
Yeah, for
sure,
sure.
like if you're hitting like Target in that, you'll probably find it for like maybe 45 or even $40.
Right, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, like I said, I think that's, like I said, I'm glad we got the two most important things everyone asked. What's is it worth it? And okay, like the rotten, like, and we gave it away. Roster's decent, but not for no $70. Okay, now let's actually start with the UI, right? So the presentation. So first things first, everything's actually pretty fast, especially being on Series X and everything. I think they did a decent job. Optimization, you see, you got the hang of it. But what are your thoughts on the interactive menu? So Dragon Ball Boudakai Tenkaichi has always had amazing menus, in my opinion, really good. But this, I could be wrong. Have you ever seen a menu? I think they do exist, but I don't think I've seen a menu as smooth as Tenkaichi 4's and as functional. Like, I like when you go right and left. Oh, you see Goku like flying into the air to go to the training. Then he just randomly instant teleports. Then if you switch it again, he does it to Roshi's Island, and in another one he flies. Like, do you not think that is such a great, like, as an indie dev, I strive for that. Like, I really love that. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I actually enjoyed the interactive background. For the fact that you're able to go from like battle and training, and then you like basically just do like a crazy instant transmission over all the way to Zeno and his kingdom right in front of him with Supreme Kai and Whis right in front of you, and like you kind of just wait there and you sort of hear them talk back and forth. I kind of like that little interaction. Like it kind of makes you feel like you're inside of the Dragon Ball world for like a brief second before you start choosing whatever it is you're looking for on the options menu that you're on, and it's a ton of fun. This is actually really nice. It looks very transition, absolutely awesome. I mean, for those who know Goku, he does instant transmission as long as he's able to sense. He can literally just appear right next to you, and that's basically what he does this entire time. There's a couple of moments where, like, if it's not too far, he'll just fly there by himself. But like, if he's going from like, let's say, like the Kame house going into like this guy, Hercule's mansion, then all he does is just like instant transmission. And when you go there, you like he sits down, like Goku sits down in the chair, Hercule's talking to him, Videl's sitting there, and then right next to Videl is a sleeping, which is freaking hilarious to me because everyone knows like Majin Buu is like the most chill person after they got the like fighting him in the series.
Yep.
So like it's little touches like that that are actually really fun.
Yeah, no, and like I said, and on top that it switches camera angles depending on what you're choosing in that specific thing. Like I said, interactive menus are some of the greatest thing in gaming, and Like I said, I could be wrong. I don't think any has gone as hard as this. Like, I'm gonna be honest. If we want to talk about in that aspect alone, I have to give it a 10 out of 10. I genuinely, I have to give the UI presentation a 10 out of 10. Would you not agree?
I definitely would give it a 10 out of 10 as well. Out of all the other anime games played as well, I don't think any of them are just as like entertaining as this one is.
No, I mean, Jujutsu Kaisen is literally just the laziest shit on earth.
So yeah,
Now,
100%, guys. If like, oh my god, like if you ever play this game, you start going through the menus, you'll see exactly what we're talking about. Like I just switched to one right now where like Goku just appeared at Capsule Corp. You have Bulma and Chi Chi talking to each other. Vegeta in the background, just kind of emoting. Goten and Trunks are playing on a tablet. Whis is laying down right next to, or no, Beerus is laying down right next to Whis, who's standing right behind him, and they have like desserts right next to them, and then they have Emperor Pilaf and his gang also there as well, right? Like not too far away from where Goten and Trunks is. So just off of that, and then you start hearing them have a conversation with one another, absolutely hilarious. And just off of that, yeah, 10 out of 10.
now the other thing is that what are your thoughts on the function? I want to hear yours first. Like, how do you feel that it interrupts? And even if it does it warrant it? And if so, how interrupty is it? If you can.
It doesn't really interrupt. I kind of feel like it switches pretty quickly to exactly where you're going, and you're able to choose like whatever it is that you're looking for, like right off rip. Like if you're just going straight to the shop, you can just go immediately to the shop, and you don't have to sit there and listen to any of them talk to each other and just hit animations and that. You can just go straight into the shop and just have a good time. So even with that, like it doesn't necessarily interrupt you per se, but like it's just very smooth in transitions of going, okay, I just got done looking through all these menus. Once I press it, what happens? It just goes right into it.
Now, for me, I would also agree. I don't think, and this is what's interesting. I was going through the menu. You guys can see I was going all over the place. Like it's almost like it knows. Like if you take your time and you go left and right, it'll play out the whole animation. But if you're just trying to go through the menus, it immediately is snappy and it immediately shows it. And I was thinking like, oh, because initially I was like, oh man, it keeps doing this. That's why I felt like, oh no, you can still go through. And I think my only flaw, to me personally, is that maybe some people might be disorienting, which I've had that a little bit if you do try to do the quick method. But function wise, it gets the job done. To me personally, I would rate it a 9 out of 10 only because I feel it could have done like a black transition or something, maybe press a button so you can simply go through the menus and then it could fade them, because I think for sure it can be a bit tiring for some people's eyes, right? And the other reason I want to give it a 9, because again, functionality is what is the same thing is you've seen this in the shop, right? Like we can show you an example right now, you guys, that when you do go say, okay, you guys see I'm going fast, and again it could be a bit like, oh, disoriented, oh, like I could have sworn I pressed left, right, so it didn't detect that. And then look at how long it takes to actually, like for the most part, for some things, like look at how long it took just for me to get into the shop. Like I think it takes a bit too long for me. To me, I'm the belief that a menu shouldn't take that long, so to me I would give it like a 9 out of 10 because it is impressive for what they did do. But when you try to select the mode or get into the shop, I personally think it takes too long. That's just my opinion. Maybe even an 8 out of. You know what? Nah, I'll give it an 8 just because at the end of the day, a menu should be function over form always. And especially once it knows you're in there, why would it take that much longer to get into the store? And like, what's it really doing? Like to me, there's definitely something going on. Like I like that you zoom into the house and everything, and that was a loading screen, but you're telling me during all that, like you couldn't just instantly click it, or there isn't an option to skip the animation. Like I like that when you're transitioning through different menus, but once you're in there, it doesn't do as good a job, And another thing I do want to critique about it overall, but I mean, what would you think? Would you also agree with my 9 out of 10, Mar, or what would you think?
Yeah, I could give it a 9 out of 10.
So
yeah, it like basically saying like you would like for it to be a little more cleaner in the transition.
Exactly.
You're there and picking the options. Yeah, I can see that.
And then the final one for the UI, I think it's definitely usable. I've never been super confused, like, like actual full UI. Like, would you agree? You feel like you're not super lost? Yeah, even going through the training menu when you did, like, you felt, it's like, 'cause people don't really realize how important UI is. And I think it's functional as hell, like a solid 5, like 5. The reason why I give it a 5 personally to me is I think for as great as everything is, I think it's too bland. Like you're looking right now, I see the Zenny, everything, like why is the number bland? Why isn't there like a little funny or a gold? It's like, I feel like they went too hard on the UI thing. And there are elements, like I said, when it comes to when you're actually like the menu and background, everything is great, but the text feels too bland in my opinion. And it's a trend, and it's too small. I think it's too small. That's something. So to me, I want to give like UI functionality definitely like the 5, and then I would give the look of the actual text and font, I have to give it either a 2 or a 3, so like an overall 8 or a 7. I don't know. What were your thoughts on what I'm saying so far, as far as the actual?
One thing I would definitely say when it comes to the text, especially when you're going here, I kind of feel like if it was just a little more bigger and they actually bold, I think it would be fine. But I mean, the way how it is a little too small. Like if you're playing on a huge TV, it shouldn't be too much of a problem to see. But like if you're playing like let's say like 27 to 32 inch, you're definitely gonna end up seeing problems with that. I highly wouldn't recommend to actually play this game on anything smaller than like a 42 inch. Like I definitely like it needs to be played on a bigger TV. I mean, it's a bombastic game. You're looking for like all the crazy like glorified cinematic type of like huge battles that people love from the series. So when it comes to like the text in that, it really could have been just a little more.
So what would you give the function? Would you agree? I give it a 10 because it gets the job done, and I've never once been lost or all this is stupid. And I'll give it a 9 because there are times I feel like it can be a bit laggy. So I give it a 9 in function, like menus and everything. Like you don't think about it. Like someone said, a good UI, you don't even notice it. But I feel like there are times I do. That's why to me I give it a 9. What would you give it function wise, not the text?
I haven't really found any time where like it kind of caught me off guard. Where it's like, this feels a little slow. So I will definitely end up giving it a 10 because that's something I never really noticed during my playthrough.
And the text, I have to give it a 5. I'm sorry, I think designs like that are just like, you can do better. I have to give it a 5. To me, even I might not be a fan, but I think you could definitely do a much better service to Dragon Ball. Like maybe put like a little, like I said, you have the little Zen coin, whatever, and it's silver and whatever. You can't do the same with the text, and I think it's too small. I think to me it's too much, especially for how much it's so glaringly obvious when you look at the rest of the product. That's why to me I give it a 5. What do you give the text and stuff?
I'm not gonna even give it a score. I'm just gonna basically say do better. Like it definitely could have been a little bigger. Like make the bigger, make the font just slightly bigger and make everything a little more bold so you'd be able to see it properly. And like I'm not even gonna give it a number because I kind of feel like that's a little too minute to even give it a number. But I'll definitely say do better. Come on.
Yeah, fair enough. All right.
We need to be able to read people.
Now there's plenty of modes, and the first one we will go and talk about, a good transition, is the episode battle, the main content of the game. There's other stuff. I mean, personally, to me, I always argue that it's a good setup. Like, this is how I looked at it, especially back in my day when I look at games like Boudakai Tenkaichi. I looked at it as, like, the game to really feel like Dragon Ball. So, like, the story, it doesn't have to be decent. Like, it doesn't have to go super in-depth, and the fact when it does have the open world, it's, like, super nice, right? Especially back in the day, that was my thought. Like, this was the premier game for the offline, and then it just ended up being the, like, fighter you played with the homies, and that's what it's more renowned for than the actual story mode, if anything. And people forgot that they actually had what-ifs, so that's not a new thing, right? The whole what-ifs, which we'll get more into. And now, especially if someone looks into finding the fact that Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, I came with it with expectations that I guess if you're looking at from old Boudakai Tenkaichi, I think it definitely fails in a lot of ways. But if you look at it from a point that makes sense, and again, assuming it costed 6, I think for 7100% further proves that it's not. Like if you gave it the full Kakarot treatment, 70 would have been more justified. But again, it doesn't make as much sense because we already have Kakarot, so why? So to me, logically, I get why. So to me, I actually forgive the lack of content, and personally, I wish they didn't have Super. So to me, personally, I think the content, it might be weird, 10 out of 10, I'll already give it a 10 out of 10 if I'm being quite honest, but we'll get into more why I would give that. I mean, so Mar, what are your thoughts? What were your expectations coming in? So you see with me, right? Is he coming from even a Tenkaichi fan, but I consolidated seeing, because again, you can't ignore Kakarot. Like that was such a big, the only reason I was thinking of getting Kakarot, I was like, does it play like Boudakai? And does it have multiplayer? And the fact that I heard no, I said, I'm not getting that, because that's what I actually fell in love with. Like I initially got it because Dragon Ball game, fell in love with it because the multiplayer was sick, you know. But what are your thoughts coming into your expectations coming into the story, and then you can go off more from there.
Well, for me, because I also have played Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. For those who don't know, that is basically a single player experience where it gives you like the full cinematic story of Goku and what happens during the events of Dragon Ball. If you really want like that true blue 100% like cinematic experience, I say definitely go for Kakarot, especially if you're gonna be playing the game by yourself. It has a little bit of RPG elements to it, so you'll be able to power up character before you go into every battle, and like the cinematics themselves look absolutely stunning. But like going into this game, I really wasn't expecting too much. I was expecting like the bare bones like explanation of like, oh, this battle happens and then this battle happens. Like for me, my favorite story mode in any Dragon Ball Boudakai game would definitely be Boudakai 3, where you're able to fly around in the open world and like, you know, you're able to interact with like different parts of the world and like find Dragon Balls and that before you go into like the big bombastic battles. This story mode as well is kind of a little bothersome to me, at least, because if you're absolute casual going into Dragon Ball Z, like there's gonna be some points for like, for example, you go in, you go through, you beat Raditz, you beat Vegeta, and you know you're on your way to doing the Frieza arc. Now, there's something that's very interesting there because there's a lot of stuff that happens that Goku was not there for. That since that ended up happening, you're gonna skip out on a lot of stuff. You do like a little mini game where like you're messing with Gregor Gregory and Bubbles, which are the two other characters that stay on King Kai's planet, and actually do like little like, oh, hit this guy with the mallet, or like just little fun stuff like that. For me, I would have loved that, but they made everything basically bare bones. Now, another thing about the story as well, since they do skip a lot of different parts, what they also did to litigate that, they actually gave you the ability to play through different parts of the story. So after when you're done with Goku's arc, go through Gohan's arc, or you go through Trunks, Piccolo, Vegeta, Frieza, and they even have Goku Black. Everyone has like different aspects of the story, so you're gonna end up getting like, oh, okay, so this is what was going on during this time, and then this happened here. Like you start putting all the pieces together over time. Part of me kind of wishes they just kept everything together. Like if you're gonna be playing a different character, like they'll just give you a different character to play. I guess they ended up doing it the way how they did in order for people to like, oh, I don't want to just play all these random characters, or I want to be able to like only play my one character through the story, and that's it.
Yep.
So then, okay, fine. Here's all the main characters that everyone knows and loves. Go through the storyline with these guys. Like with that type of aspect, I definitely could see that. But for me, like if you're really going to be going through it story wise, I'd say Dragon Ball Kakarot is a lot better. Get more cinematics out of it. And another thing too that's actually a really big nitpick for me. I do not like the slideshow that they have. They don't have actual animations. They literally just do slideshows in order for them to explain what's going on in the story. And of course you get the voice actors doing their little parts here and there. And I can also tell like they definitely did some reshoots in terms of like getting the voice actors to come in and say like, oh, their lines a little differently compared to like what was going on in the anime or like the movie. I'm kind of disappointed on that. That's probably going to end up making my number come down a little more just because I do not like the slideshows. For me, it brings down the quality of the game. And for as fun as it is, that definitely does pull down the quality. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, so overall, like I said, just to break down even further again, so I can start from the beginning, you guys, I'm showing you right here. It's basically a timeline. It's like in a timeline, and even going back to I personally, like I said, anyone knows it's funny because the other thing is why I didn't care too much is, okay, it's a recap, so I wasn't expecting that much. And I don't mind some of the slideshow, but like damn, like they could have even just been lazy. And I don't know why. Just to me, it's not even the fact that it's a slideshow. I think they could have been better, but it's also the fact that it's so jarring going from 3D to that's what really bothers me, because there's games like Max Payne that are only just in a comic book format and it fucking works. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
So I think in that sense, it's a lack of direct. But overall, if we're just going, let's say go only linear, I think it's okay, whatever. It's what really enhances it is the fact that you're playing Boudakai Tenkaichi. That's what it's always been to me, because it's like, oh, been there, done that. That's why, again, to me personally, I didn't care too much that it reached the super. I know a lot of people that was basically a requirement to me. I'm like, homie, the fact that I would have liked if it had like an open world aspect, because that's just always more fun to me, right? I agree, or level up system, whatever. The fact that it's straightforward and to the point and it's how you unlock stuff, like I don't mind either way. But to me, and even going back, like I said, to the presentation and the UI, I think the presentation's great. But as you guys see, the background looks way too PNG, and going back and forth between the menus, to me, takes too long. Look how long it's taking. To me, that's why I do have to give crap, because it's like, homie, aren't you on like series? Like, you shouldn't take this long. Like, that's why to me that is something that is really annoying, especially when I was redoing fights. That's another thing I want to talk about, when you have to redo fights because say you couldn't beat it, or you want to try to do something condition, which we'll get into later. It's really annoying that there is not a let me retry, or let me choose to continue or end right here, and it takes forever to back out. Like, that function is really aggravating, and I immediately am going to take off 2 points for that. But outside of that, like, to me, I love the what if. Now, the what ifs, like I said, presentation wise, I think it's slightly lacking for sure. Like, that's already -1 point, and then 2, because like I shouldn't be getting moving and stuff. I think that it's straightforward, but the what ifs I love, and there's two versions. There's the one where you simply make a decision, and then there's another one where there's like a kind of short track, and it just goes back to where it is. See, it says unable to defeat in the time elapsed, and then the question mark is always something. And I like this because then you have to figure out what it is, and sometimes it can be a bit too obscure. Like one where there's a cell fight, you have to sit here and it's like, okay, it says unable to beat him, and you go on, but I beat his ass so fast, and it's like, okay, then what do I have to actually do? That one, to this day, I still don't know what it is. So I think that's a bit annoying, is that I wish I could throw you a bone. Like, I like being able to figure things out, but don't be too, don't have the Dark Souls problem where I have to look this shit up online, right? I think it's something that I shouldn't have to, but it's something that is rare. It does happen, but with how short it is, it makes the problem far more glaring, because there's not as many fights. And I think, and before we get into more into the combat, because that'll be part of the segment, that as I do like, as you guys can see, that becomes an entire own timeline. Like, once you get to that what if, you go down and it's an entire different thing. See, and then boom, and it's linear, and then there's no deviation from that, which is nice. And there's like different parts, like maybe let's say 3 for Goku, and maybe only 1 or 2. And remember, there's one where it's a conversation piece, while the first one is a Piccolo. You choose to go with or without. Like, if I went the first route, I went canon, because I actually know how the story went. And then it gets less crazy the further on you get, which is fine, and I think that's nice. But from what I remember, there's like 3 big variants, and that's for Cell, the very beginning with Vegeta, and Frieza, which makes sense. Those are some of the most big arcs, right? And it just goes full linear from there. There's no real deviation. And if I'm gonna be honest, maybe you could agree with me, I actually like the what if stories way more than the original, because I always thought Dragon Ball's writing was kind of fucking stupid to a degree, and I feel that a lot of it gets mitigated so hard in the what ifs. What is your thought on that? Again, you know, and in the presentation,
I mean, in terms of the what ifs, like it basically just turns into like a little kid's like what dream of like getting the action figures of all these Dragon Ball characters and just like going completely off. Like right now, I'm actually playing a custom battle right now where I'm playing as Perfect Cell and I'm fighting against like the characters from the board. Right now, I'm going against Popovich. Afterwards, I'm going to hit Babidi, then Deborah, then hitting Fab, and that's using like Perfect Cell. And for the fact that they gave you the ability to, like you can go and play X, Y, and Z, and you know they actually give like different stipulations on like, okay, if you end up doing this, this, and this, then you actually win like the battle. You don't actually have to like just completely finish off the opponent against. Like if you do like a specific special attack, then they'll give you. I do like that. For those who always like had that idea of like, oh man, I want to be able to play all these different characters like going against each other. They truly did give you that ability. It's a shit ton of fun. I don't think I can ever not play this just because it's here. And I mean, I already know the story full on, so I really don't need to go through the whole thing of like what the 12th time. So it's high necessary, at least for me.
Yeah, so the what if is like a really nice twist that just really spices it up, that you'd say.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, no, for me, like I said, and the other thing is, he was talking about the gameplay, which I absolutely agree. Like, I like when in one of the mini spoiler, you actually just fight the Ginyu Force, like all of them back to back to back, and then you hear like, oh, when they're like down health, they switch like, oh, don't worry, I got this one. Go. I love that, like that, and it feels so canon. Like, you know that people who did this are fans and they wrote it with love. Like, you can just tell they were having fun with this. You could feel that shit. Would you not agree?
Oh yeah, they definitely like they're in love with Dragon Ball. Like here you go, guys. This is exactly what you need right here.
Which, by the way,
it's a ton of fun.
Yeah, and by the way, rest in peace, Akira Toriyama. I think this writing definitely. I mean, arguably, I think it's better than his writing. No offense to him, but it definitely shows that the passion and the love carried on and inspired them. And I you know, just big shout outs to Akira Toriyama, right, for inspiring fans. And I think that these what ifs are a good love letter send off. Absolutely. Like I enjoyed them. I'm sorry. I genuinely enjoyed them, honestly. They didn't feel unlike some things, or we're gonna like literally, even though the what ifs and everything, like my favorite thing is, okay, what if, okay, Goku didn't die against Raditz or whatever, but like the characters feel in character, if anything, even more so. Like there isn't no weird, like it's crazy. It's crazy that like it is fanfic, but it's like the equivalent of like what Doom Eternal fanfic is. Like, this is fanfic written by a fan that prioritizes what the source material is over what he would actually like. Okay, here's the situation that I want to happen, but how can we make it make sense and not throw anyone's character out of whack, you know?
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Especially like I'm telling you guys, like, especially if you're a huge Dragon Ball fan, you probably aren't playing this game to begin with. So we're not really telling anything that like, oh man, this is ultra surprising. But like, yeah, the what ifs, at least in the standpoint of like, you know, the type of content you get this game, it's like the best part of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, the main story is whatever. Like, and I guess this is what transition. You're good. We're talking about all the superficial stuff. Let's actually talk about the gameplay aspects of it. I mentioned it a little bit, right, with how annoying it is to try to. But what was your? This is a big thing. Did you think the campaign was hard? Or, you know, and outside of, also, how did it really feel playing? And like, I don't know. I guess I'll start with that.
I kind of find this hilarious because a lot of people were bitching and complaining. Oh, once you get into Grade 8 Vegeta, which is like the campaign, like it's a little difficult, but like it's only difficult if it's just completely off. Like, oh, okay, giant monkey, how am I gonna beat him? Well, and honestly, either you keep your distance, just like, you know, beam spam the living crap out of him, or if you're smart enough, just use your sparking power. Like, you continuously unuse your sparking power, and you give yourself the ability to like. Wait, hold on, because I'm in the middle of shooting a simple command here. You give yourself the ability to like make distance, and on top of that, like just really go fast on him and use all of your attacks, because even though he basically has super armor, didn't we find out it was like what, 5 hits afterwards? You actually do like give him some knockback, so it isn't really that difficult. It only took me like a few tries to get through it. I don't know everyone else. I see like online like complain like, oh man, this is like the most difficult thing of all time. It's not that hard, guys. It's really just Dragon Ball. And then on top of that, this is a casual game. You're not even taking. If it's really too hard for you, lower the difficulty. Stop complaining and lower the difficulty.
Yeah.
It's not that bad.
I mean, And I think to me, why I think people complain is part of it. Like for sure, it's a curve because mainly because you just have to fight him differently. You know, it's the same reason why people don't like playing grapplers and zoners is that you have to completely change up the way you play, and nobody likes that. But I think for sure the real problem with it is not the fact that he's like kind of like a skill check in a sense. And then are you actually paying attention? And it does spike. It's the fact that there's not an in between fights, and people by this point are still trying to get used to. Like even I felt like okay, whatever. I just changed my mind and okay, whatever. But I'm like I have to think that okay, I'm a fighting game player. I am not the average person, and people are complaining for reasons to the point that they even nerfed him. So I think there is some like. It's not that hard, but I think there's some validation that the structure could have been better, and it's showing and glaring that the campaign could have used more in between fights, even against some minions or something, or even taught you. Because again, nowhere did the game really teach you. Because like I said, the biggest weakness, if you can try to make space and zone, but even I did do that. Like I said, you guys are seeing gameplay clip throughout this entire time. You'll see me. I'm trying to back away as he's saying, and something again because the AI does what it does. And one of the things that is the most reliable is getting behind his back. It didn't really. If you again, some of you might not have even gone to training, so that's like to me, all right, what's the game doing to actually teach you? And I think that's something as a game developer I stress enough, right? So the game kind of does have an aspect that it assumes you already came from Kakarot. That's how I personally feel. So I think to a degree it is warranted if you've never played like a fighter before. I think those people are 100% warranted, right? But the other thing, like I said, at the end of the day, it is a check. But if you're the kind of person that didn't go through with it, whatever, like that's kind of the whole thing with Dragon Ball, right? Goku, like even if it is, you should kind of tough it out. Like maybe people from my generation are just built different. Like even back in the day, this is how stuff used to be. There was no up because they had to make it in a rush. Like now there is no excuse, so I will knock off for that. But this is also a knock on you of like you should push through. You will figure out. That's part of the fun. And on top of that, it was a satisfying fight. Like it was that mini skill check. It wasn't crazy, but like that's what makes a good satisfying fight. Isn't that what Goku's about? Overcoming the odds. So to me, it's like actually reflect and enjoy it. You should be happy that it's a hard fight. That's kind of the point of anything. It should be tough. It's fucking facing grade 8 fucking Vegeta, right? So it should be a bitch. But yeah, if you guys want a secret, what it really is that, yeah, around like 4 to 5 hits, he will hit stunner. But the most guaranteed plan I can think of is when he rushes you or something, try to either sidestep or press jab and then teleport behind him, which I did was consistent. Then do maybe 2 hits and then do armor. Do like hold it and do a armor break and try to do a low or a high. And then kind of always do like, okay, do a little mini combo and try to do the teleportation, or okay, do 3 hits and then reset into another heavy, because heavies will always break them if they're not blocking. And on top of that, if they do try to hit you, you will actually tank the hit. So there you go. That one's free for you guys. And then again, if you get them like, so okay, let's say round start, you try to back away, maybe throw a fireball, charge a little bit, he comes to you, block, hopefully he doesn't do a command grab, or see he's trying to block, try to do 2 hits, maybe do, and that's it, just do 2 hits, whether it hits or not, then charge, and make sure you, and again, it's either, I forget what it is, figure that one out, because I just know this by hand, I don't know if it's like square, triangle, and then do down, or yeah, do down, you get for the full combo, and then up, and then just do your combo, and then when they're like, you teleport, you press triangle, right after you do your, like, so square, then teleport, square, hold charge, and even the teleport one, it just makes you more safe. Then once you're behind him, do charge, break his back, and by the way, when they're in the back, they're more screwed, and then just do a full combo, and then when you're done, he should be far away from you, then that's when you charge, and then you continue the plan of just spamming him, and if he ever gets close, just try to beat block and see when he has an opening, and use that opening not to break him, but to go behind him and repeat the process. Because like I said, the whole point is why you do 2 hits is in case he does, then you get like a sort of guaranteed combo. But again, charge hits are going to be pretty key. And again, like I said, in case that way you don't become too predictable, because the AI might auto teleport, which by the way, just use circle or B as it is. But that's my whole thing on that. And if you want to talk about, like, no, one of the bigger fights for sure that I think is hard is definitely the black Goku and shit. Like that's where it's like, oh, that's another curb and shit. And like I said, outside of like what I said is some of these things being big, like I said, it's just defeat Chase. What's the other one? Do I have to lose them? Like there's ones where like I lose and I'm like, I still don't get the alternate ending. It's like, so what am I supposed to do? Like I said, that's another nitpick. But outside of that, gameplay wise, like I said, I definitely felt that I didn't get enough fights to get accustomed. But once you got to the grade 8 Vegeta fight, everything kind of felt easier because of that stark contrast to a degree. And then trying to get the alternate, it's fun. Like at the end of the day, I'll say this much, it's definitely a fun experience in the beginning. Okay, whatever. And there's definitely difficulty spikes, but I absolutely had fun the whole time. And even with Black Goku be just an absolute pain in the fucking ass, like it was definitely, it was fun. I enjoyed it. Even going into Super, like, I thought it was stupid, but it was fun. At the end of the day, it was definitely a fun experience. Nowhere near the hardest thing on earth. Could have been far more well structured, but I think 100% the what ifs and the little mini side offs, like, okay, 100% gave it a lot of replay value in my opinion. And it's a good way to get used to the game, honestly. I just think it definitely could have done a better job. So overall, like I said, I would give it an 8 out of 10 as far as function and everything, right? And even like I said, I just like the what ifs a lot. I just think it could have been a bit more structured and open, but I definitely found it very enjoyable. Like I said, like function wise, 8. And if we're talking about how much I really liked it, I give it a 9 out of 10. Because I came into expectations. Like kind of like the other thing is, especially with games that are more focused on the fighting and the combat, stories are generally an afterthought. So this is like a blessing. Just look at most fighting games. There's a reason they only have arcade mode and they're very niche. I mean, the one that has the best story mode is goddamn BlazBlue and Under Night, and they're just visual fucking novels, you know. But yeah, and even then I think the presentation's a bit like, but I don't know, like, so I guess overall I'd give it just an 8 to be more fair, 'cause so many people really hated on it, but to me I'd give it an overall A. That's just running off my thoughts. I mean, what do you think as far as anything adding on difficulty, and if you thought it was a very fun experience, you know?
Difficulty wasn't really any problem. I also had problems with the Goku Black arc right after when Zamasu and Black feud. He actually like pretty much like damn near unstoppable. Like unless you're like very used to like blocks and parries,
And
like this is gonna be
teleporting.
the true test. Yes, that match would definitely be a true test. And then once you're done with that and you go through that situation, I kind of feel like
Smooth sailing.
going into the Tournament of Power arc is actually fairly easy afterwards.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to say because of course a lot of people who know like Jiren and characters like Hit as well, like they're like extremely badass. And for the fact that you know you can go through them with, I wouldn't necessarily say ease, but it really isn't as difficult as like the Zamasu fight. I would say in terms of like entertainment factor though, it is all the different characters that you do go through. Like just playing as Goku alone, you get to fight through a bunch of different characters, and they're actually pretty fun to deal with. Going like with Frieza and Vegeta and all that as well, like you kind of get some crazy little fights as well. Even if you could like kind of go toward the what if portions of the story mode, they're actually pretty wild. Difficulty, I really don't feel like anyone should really be lowering it, and if it really is that point where like okay, I really need to lower the difficulty, it's fine.
Yeah, like I said.
Like it's not a this thing, and then on top of that, touch base on when it comes to online, it's a completely different ecosystem, especially when you start playing against people. So if you're gonna lower the difficulty, go right ahead. It's pretty fine. That's why it's there, people.
But what would you rate it for sure? What's your thoughts on the story overall? Then?
I would definitely give it. I would give it an 8. Definitely the entertainment factor of the different storylines and the what I would highly recommend for once you go through one of the storylines, play through the custom matches. Which, by the way, if you don't know, players actually make their own custom battles, so they are the ones who actually put like their own stipulations and like the team ups in that, and you get like default lines of like what's being said, which is fine. It isn't nothing really crazy in that. They don't want anyone putting like rated R type stuff into a game that's basically just full of cartoons, even though like there's like 25 years worth of like Rule 34 on this. It's genuinely fun, and I too would I would almost give it a 9. I don't want to give it a 8.
That's funny. Yeah, that's a good transition. So we're talking about modes in the first one. This is called custom battle mode, right? That's what it is? Or bonus battle? Yeah. I mean, me personally, I'm gonna be honest, I just genuinely don't care. It feels like too intrusive to try to even do. And I even like, maybe it's just too much UI or whatever. It feels like this is what it feels like. Either some people like really like it or are indifferent to it. I am definitely indifferent to it, but I think it's a good addition and it's cool. And I think playing some what ifs, whatever. And even the text, okay, whatever. Like, it's nice that it's there, but it's like, I would have rather have more modes. Like, I don't know. I'm just not that impressed by it personally, but it's nice that it's there. I do like the bonus battles instead of the preset ones. I definitely got to go through them, and I enjoy the ones that they were already provided to us. And the fact that fans can do them in case I really enjoy them more, at least gives you some more reason to play. But I feel like, to me personally, outside of the battle, and then maybe you do the bonus battles, playing a custom battle just is kind of like, because there's only so much, because you're kind of doing the same thing. It's like basically going through a custom arcade thing, but with just random dialogue slapped in. That's how it personally feels like to me. That's what it really is. Maybe there could be a moment like, oh, that's funny. Like, I'm pretty sure there's like, to fans, there's definitely like kind of novelty to it. So to me, for sure, as a non-fan, this is a very, like I said, I think the bonus battle in itself should be different from the custom one because it's something that's already provided and it's something for you to unlock and do whatever. But the custom battle mode, like, to me, and then I love making stuff, I don't really care for making it. I would rather just play other people. Like, oh, I could just have my own team and then we could just make it up. Why do I need to, what I'm saying? Like, we could just roleplay. Why would I need to do it just feels like, and I don't know, just the menu, something about it just doesn't appeal to me. And then the fact that, like, what is it actually? I don't know. Like, it could be the text or something, the UI. Again, that's why I gave it the, like, what's the difference? And see, like, why is it repeating? Why is there both bonus? And then also, I don't know. To me, it kind of like a 4 or a 5. I want to give it a 5 because of the fact that I keep hearing that people really do like it for what it is. But to me, it's kind of just like, I could have been fine with that. I think the bonus battles, for sure, just because you need to have something extra. But the custom, I could have done without. That's just me personally. You can tell I'm not very, so that's just my take. That's just my personal. To me, that's why I'm glad you talked. Like, I could care less,
I mean, for me, because like I said, like as we're doing this review, I'm actually playing custom battles and that. Like one of the battles I'm doing right now is Kale, which is basically the female version of Broly, going against the Dragon Ball Z version of Broly, which everyone knows, like, he's basically just a huge beefcake and damn near impossible to actually take down. By the way, I'm super glad that they kept it that way. Like, it's little stuff like that I find real entertainment in, and I actually find this a little more entertaining than the episodes themselves. So like, for anyone really looking for like, oh man, is this even going to be worth my time? Like, if you actually take the time to go ahead and play through some of these, you'd actually have a blast. I promise.
So yeah, I would say we have to rate them different. What do you rank custom and bonus battles? Like to me, I'm tied between. Like I said, I have to play a bit more, and we'll boot it. But for bonus, I for sure would rate it anywhere from 5 to 6. I think, like I said, like those kind of situations. Oh, here's Broly, and then you get a bunch of weak people try to beat him. Like that's actually a fun scenario, right? I think I really do like that. So that's why I'm like, I have to see. Maybe there's one that I absolutely super enjoy, and then I can. Right now, I'm at a 5. I'm like, it's whatever. It's nice that it's there. I think it's a depth, but it's like the bare minimum. Like, okay, you should have something like this. And the few ones I have played, I'm like, whatever. But like maybe there might be one that I'm like, okay, you know what, the 6, but it would only bump it up to a 6. Custom battle, I kind of want to put it like a 2 or a 3 because I just genuinely don't care. I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? What would you give a number? Both, I think they're separate because at the end of the day they are separate. What would you rate bonus and custom if you could?
If I were definitely to give it a number, I'd give it an 8. I'd give it an 8 alongside the episodes as well. Because for me, like I said, the ability to be able to even do this already is kind of nuts, and I'm pretty sure over time we'll be able to do even more crazier scenarios. The more they keep on adding characters into this game, and so far from everything that I've seen, I've been thoroughly. I enjoyed a little more than the actual eps themselves, just because again, like I've already played through the storyline a billion freaking times. There's no reason for me to go through it another billion times. So to be able to do different scenarios and do what ifs and basically have like, you know, the Universe 7 representation to be Master Roshi, Yamcha, Chaozu, and Hercule versus like Hit and all these other crazy characters. I feel like there's some of these that can really test you as a player, and I really do think, you know, instead of everyone going to like the extremely super OP characters, like if you really want to test whether or not if you're actually decent at the game, you know, use the lesser characters against the bigger characters. Like it's gonna seem unfair to you, but over time it's gonna, you know, you're gonna feel pretty good on it. And then on top of that, one other thing that I do like, when you go through all of them, you actually see like they actually give you a clear rate, like, oh, only 80% of people gone through this, or like 36% of people have been able to clear this, like little stuff like that. So you can tell whether or not if it's actually going to be difficult for you, and you know if it's something that you want to give like an actual try to, that's perfectly fine. If not, hey, it's there when you're ready. So yeah,
I think that's fair. Yeah, 8. You would say overall 8 for both. And I think, you know, you saying that's like, I would get 5 because at the end of the day, one bonus battle I might really like, and at the end, because I feel like no, if I'm just playing to play, like it's just there, then definitely like a 2 or a 3. But then that one fun one or a handful commitment of 12, and the fact that custom battle, like you said, they can make one. That's also, so you could have custom battles that could be at the same level bonus, heck, probably even more. So it's like, you know what, yeah. But I just couldn't be bothered to get into it, so I think an overall fair 5 for me. And I think that's a good representation. Either you love it or you I would say hate it, but it's like you can't knock it for like the fact that it exists. You have to give it a 2 or a 3. But there are fun scenarios. You can't deny it. I think the core of the game really carries it. That's why like I want to give it the extra 2 for the benefit of the doubt, you know. But with that being said, we're already, and I think we're gonna talk about the last two. Well, not the last two. We still got quite a bit. No, believe it or not, is or I guess now we've talked about almost every single mode, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Oh, just about, yeah. Every single mode that's
right. There's actually
is there anything else?
Yeah, nah. So overall, what are your thoughts on like how like the encyclopedia, the data, theater? What are your thoughts on all that kind of stuff?
After when you go through all the story modes, the different perspectives, get to watch everything like in order if you'd like, which is pretty nice. But that's like the only way to actually do it. You can't do it within the story itself. The encyclopedia explains all the different characters and where they're from. It's actually a lot of fun. I thoroughly enjoy that.
Along with the commentary from the girls, I thought that was an absolutely nice feature. That they did not.
Yeah, it's actually kind of hilarious because like they do talk crap a little bit. It's kind of interesting because they are 100% in character when they're talking about all these different characters. Exactly. And I think that's pretty adorable.
So the encyclopedia in itself, I think is different. I think the overall, like I think theater could be better. Data is nice, and I like that there's replays, but it's nowhere near as good. Like, oh, replay, stop, whatever. So if you ask me, like I said, I would definitely say that the theater, or I mean the encyclopedia, I don't think it's at the level of MVC3, but I want to give it a 9 out of 10, only because MVC3 is like near peak. And now the fact that we know that you could just have people commentate over it as a bonus feature, which is a thing that some fighting game did at Dengeki Bunko. And the MVC, I would have put 10 out of 10. Because it gives you their theme and everything. So to me, I give it a 9 out of 10. What would you give the encyclopedia? I feel like that is worth.
I genuinely give it like a 10 out of 10. There's really nothing that I would add to it, and just nothing that I would want to take out of it. So I definitely just give it the 10.
Okay, yeah, and I gave it a 9. Like it's only because I've seen the peak of what can be offered from that, and The other one I really want to get. So the overall thing, I think, like I said, I think everything is it gets the job done. I would give it like a 5. It feels bare bones for like the replay and theater and data. It's like it's there. I was even going through it now. It's like okay, it is replay data, and I've heard too the replaying is not that great. Like okay, you can't like do pause, or if you go to the next round, you can't go back. It's like it's crazy how we have very limiting replay. So to me, I would give it like a 5. It's serviceable. What's your thoughts on?
Okay.
Would you agree?
I could definitely agree with that. I could definitely give it a 5 just off of that.
Okay, cool. And then we go to the next mode. I guess the thing is, do you think there's enough? I feel like the player card stuff is very lacking. I feel like there's not enough player cards. And the shop, I love the items. Like, like, I think they're not up to par with Boudakai Tenkaichi. Like, oh, do extra speed boost, this and that. Because I actually do mess with that stuff. And also, I think some people really complain with the lack of costumes. What are your thoughts on that overall, right? Like, from player card customization stuff to the Z-shop items and the lack of outfits, to say.
In terms of outfit and that, I kind of find it interesting because watching the series, a lot of these characters really don't have too many different outfits. A couple of them I could think of that Goku could actually have in this game. His farmer outfit, I think that would be pretty fun. The outfit that he's wearing when he's driving a car for the first time in Dragon Ball Z, I think that would be like a nice little addition. Or even his suit. The work suit that he ends up wearing, or the suit that he wears for Dragon Ball Z 8 Broly, the movie. That would be also like a little bit of fun. But in all honesty, like the customization in general and just like character outfits really doesn't bother me that much.
Okay.
Definitely could be improved, but I could genuinely just give two shits in the rat's ass because everyone's basically wearing exactly what everyone remembers these characters wearing, and it's not like Frieza's gonna throw on like a shirt that says "I hate Saiyans." I think that'd be freaking hilarious, but I don't think they'd ever do that.
I think it's serviceable, but it's good serviceable. I would give it an A if it wasn't for how long it would go in between the menus. And the other thing, my problem with the Z items, I think they're not as good as Boudakai Tenkaichi 2, definitely. And on top of that, unless you're playing certain battles where the people allow it, you can't even use the items. So it's like, why even use them? So to me, I have to give it a 6. That's just me. I would give like shop in there overall, because that's what it's like. It's there. It's nice. It's not terrible, but it could be better. Like, that's always the trend. So it's definitely, I would give it a 6 overall for the shop.
Yeah. And then like even adding back to the player cards, like there's definitely a lot of other things could have added on there.
Exactly.
Like they could add like the like picture of the destruction of like the planet Vegeta, or like little simple stuff.
Because has great fucking player cards, breakers.
Yeah, they actually do.
So, but whatever. I give it serviceable, but enjoy. Like it's decent. Like I said, I would give it a 7 if it was just faster. It takes too long. It's not snappy enough.
Yeah, I'll slap a 7 on it too.
Well, I mean, like I said, right now I'm stuck with 6. Like I said, if they can improve the functionality of it, I'd step it up to a 7. Like I said, like that and the fact that if you can make Z items more like prevalent, because people just don't use them. So and I like it because here's the thing: I would use it with Jason Boudakai Tenkaichi 2. I made him crack hit fast, right? And I like it too because you can extend people's health. Because you notice how even Broly doesn't have his health bars all the way, right? That's why you have to actually. I forgot to set it on earlier, or maybe you didn't. And I think the problem is it doesn't do a good job. Do you even use the Z items or no? I'm curious.
No,
all right.
I genuinely do not give two shits about.
See, there you go. And
I know it improves the character, just like, but I don't think it's enough for like, oh man, it's night and day on my character. But I don't think it's that crazy.
I mean, in Boudakai Tenkaichi 2, it was. In here, not as much, but I think it can cater the character more to your playstyle. So it's something that I personally really like. It gives the character, you're not just like, now when you play one Broly outside of playstyle, oh, this one has a lot more health. Oh, this one's a lot faster. Oh, this one gets less tired. I think it would actually kind of adds depth to the game, but it's something that's so overlooked, right? That's why to me, I'd give it a 6, is the fact that it's not something that's really put in your face. And if I'm being honest, I mean, to a degree, I feel like it should be pushed more because it just makes the game more interesting. I like things that are more pushed in. That's why we're kind of about the fans, because at the end of the day, this isn't the most super competitive game in the world, right? If anything, this is like a broken thing, whatever, but it adds depth to the game. And at the end of the day, it's just more fun. I think to me, it's just something that I personally like. It's funny, ironic that the Dragon Ball fan doesn't care about these items, but I fucking do. That's why I would rate overall everything, including just a 6. Would you not agree with that? Because I mean, think about it. You don't even engage with the Z items, and the menu could be better. So that's why that's 2 points. Z, and that's why I'm like 6, solid 6, right? Not 8.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, 6 actually.
Right.
Oh,
so hey, you guys should definitely play with Z items. See, and that's what's funny. Now that if I allow that, that means you're gonna get cut because I'm gonna have way more health than you. Because that's like one of the first base things I put was a shit ton of health.
Yeah, I'll be fine with it.
I like long fights. If I'm being honest, to me that's what's great about Dragon Ball Boudakai Tenkaichi. Is that we're here to have a long-ass one-round fight. This ain't Street Fighter where we're having rounds that end in like, oh, okay, let me get a lucky read. Oh, GG, shake my fucking hand. That was 10 seconds. But we get into another aspect that we talked about these two too. We kind of bring it on, but now we're going to have whole sections dedicated to it. First up is the visuals. What are your thoughts on the entire visuals of this game, from the UI to the actual gameplay, the character models? Like, what are your thoughts, if you could put into words?
10 out of 10. Everything in here is just about. It's exactly how I would want it, or it exceeded my expectations. Perfect example when we're fighting out Planet Namek and the whole explosion ends up happening. The animation itself actually looks incredible. Like just watching that over and over. Like I would my attack and it steals up the planet is absolutely insane. But yeah, 10 out of 10. There's nothing I would change. Everything looks damn near perfect. Almost like it was ripped straight out of the anime. Even like down to like when you crash someone down into the ground and it makes like a crater, like shooting your key blast, like going through like pillars of rocks and that. Like it just looks amazing. For me, straight up 10 out of 10. I have.
Oh, okay, fine. So, alright. So I personally, actually, I think the presentation is clearly fine, right? But I think it definitely has glaring flaws. Some people say, "Oh, it's unreal." To me, I feel they overdid, and this is just someone being maybe nitpicky. I feel like they overdid the color saturation. It's too super. I don't like the color palette of Super. So that's the first thing, is I'm not a fan of the color palette. I also think it's definitely, you could tell these are just reused assets. Hard, and I think Dragon Ball Z, in my opinion, like Fighters, was more like they were more focused on trying to recreate comic panels one to one, and it has that style. Like, it has a harder comic book style than this one. Would you not agree? That's like objective. Like, you tell, like, even the line, the stinning, and everything. Like, it's there. Like, I'm looking right now at Piccolo and Gohan. They don't have that. Like, it's just the face. Like, it feels almost bland compared to what they did in Dragon Ball Fighter Z. I think the presentation and everything, and again, I guess it's easier because it was actually animated. I think I prefer the supers in here 100%, way more, right? And even the fact you just do the Kamehamehas. But I think for sure it can look a bit Play-Doh. Like, they look fine, right? But as an artistic medium, I think it's a bit lacking. And I think from a visual standpoint, the particle effects might have gone a bit too hard, and you can even feel sometimes the frame rate dip because of that. Like, it's a game that definitely pushed the visuals hard. Dude, it used the shit out of Unreal. Like, I think more than any other game, they're using the features like a motherfucker. But I think the art is not up to par with, say, something Kakarot or even Fighters. Because at the end of the day, they are just more focused on the actual fighting. Whereas, like, Fighters is a super fighting game. But because a lot of the stuff, well, I mean, if you guys don't know, they approach it like an actual hand-drawn thing kind of sense. And this one, it's not the same because it's a full 3D thing. So you just can't inherently focus on the art as much, So that's what I want to say. And on top of that, to me, the real comparison is compared to Boudakai Tenkaichi, the OG. I think there was a much stronger sense of style in the old ones than there is in the new ones, right? And you guys can check out my thing. I think another thing is, I think the cutscenes are just way too long for the supers. They could be a lot shorter. Like, I have a lot of complaints. Like I said, the game looks solid, like maybe 8 out of 10. But because I have other things to compare it to, and I think you can do better, I honestly want to give it not even a 6. It feels like, no, you know what? I can meet it halfway. Definitely a 7. Because I think they're like, oh, there's times where it's nice. But I think the glow is too much. This even they had earlier, Harugan was cock blocking the screen too much. So they could have made the camera better. And I'll tell you, it does look amazing. I'll say this much. Like, it might not be artistically the best looking one. I think Boudakai Tenkaichi has a stronger style. Like, you see, it's funny because the model wise, it's right. Like, you guys will see a comparison earlier. I'll do from Alanista. You look at Goku. You look at his face on the right. That's Dragon Ball Boudakai Tenkaichi 4. You could tell clearly, like, it's like in the old one, you could just see that it's a PNG of Goku's eyes plastered on a model, and they said, let's call it a day. Was in here, you could tell, no, that is an actual eye, that is an eyebrow, like, there's just, the mesh is better, for those of you who don't know. 100%, obviously, in 3D quality, they knocked it out of the park, like, super faithful. But they clearly wanted to say, okay, so, and you could tell, right, they just took the models and say, okay, there's clearly some mismatch here, like, obviously, characters from Fighter Z aren't going to look the same as Kakarot and that, so they kind of picked a homogenous style to a degree, so everybody doesn't stick out. That makes sense to me. I think that's why the artistic quality is downgraded to a degree, and to that sense, I think they did a good job. Like, model-wise, absolutely, right? I think models, they did great. Especially, by the way, I will say this, the stages are amazing. I think they did not slack on the stages. If I could, the stages, I gotta say 10 out of 10. Hands down. I think they absolutely did it great. Hands down. But I think the overall color palette, too, was much better in Budokai. Like, it just felt more gritty, real. I like the tone. Just to me, personally, visuals, even though obviously graphically and mesh quality, and even, like, again, distance and whatnot, there's a lot less basic repeats in here. Obviously, it's going to be better. But I think from an artistic standpoint, Boudakai Tenkaichi just knocks it out of the water. Because even though it's literally just a picture of eyes and a mouth, because of the fact that it's drawn and the way they drew it, you're like, oh, that's an angry ass Goku. Oh, look at the little, they compensated, creativity, right? Limitation was creativity. You could tell, like, Like they just added it again. We're looking at even Gohan now. Like, why does it look just flat? He only has that line and the eyebrow. Whereas in the one, like, no, they actually even put like veins and shit like that. Like they drew that themselves. Like, yeah, it's just a picture, but you don't notice it when they're that far away. And I think they should have honestly done that as well. Just they could have done an overlay, and that would have added to it. So it's something they could. They could just like, let's drag some PNGs. It's simplifying it. Like I said, it's actually not a mesh. I forgot what it was. You have to forgive me deving stuff. But that's just my critique. As a dev and as someone who really likes Boudakai Tenkaichi and understands what the source is. But visual-wise, I think it looks amazing. It's one of the best ones. But you could tell to a degree there is some performance issues, and they were definitely pushing the engine. I think when it comes to an engine and models and everything, they were pushing it. And it's probably one of the best things to Kakarot. But I think artistically, Kakarot definitely beats it. Because again, like I said earlier, when you have all these different models and everything, we kind of have to pick a homogenous style and simplify the characters. Just look at no different than Naruto, OG compared to Shippuden. That's why all the uniforms are kind of the same. It's not that drastic, right? But that's just my thoughts. So I want to give it a 7. I'm happy with 7. I could even bump it. Like if I really wasn't that nitpicky, I would give it an 8. But because I can compare it to Boudakai Tenkaichi, and I just love the visual way more in the look, like like let's go. Even the way some things are animated, honestly, like they're stiff. Even though I'll say this, we talked about the overall animation quality. This is the theme, right? Underneath the hood, obviously Boudakai Tenkaichi 4 destroys the old ones, right? There's no repeat animations in that. But even though some animations repeated or they were lacking, there was more oomph to them. Even some of the Kamehamehas, which by the way, that's the best aspect. Good job on them for doing a bunch and re-innovating, right? That's what I meant. Like it's not as faithful because they, instead of okay, let's do the exact shot from the anime, let's just do it. But we're gonna do it in a different style, whether it's animation or something. Which again, it's its own unique take. It is clearly faithful, right? But they clearly took some liberties. Whereas Dragon Ball Fighters 100% was trying to be like, if we want to talk about who's the most, Fighters just wins because they clearly have the advantage of we have the 2D platform, but with Boudakai, it's full 3D and you don't get full control. And that's why, again, the cinematics, they are good. They're like, let's not just do, everyone's already seen this 1,000 times. Let's re-innovate, and I like that. And I don't think they slack. My only complaint is, please be shorter. Like I said, if it wasn't for that, I would give it like an 8. But mine, I give it a 7. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, I went off a bit, right? Because there's a lot. And especially as a developer, it's very important to know these kinds of things, right? Like like I said, pure visuals wise, a 7. But what are your thoughts on at least this? What do you think as far as impact? Like, do you feel? I mean, I don't know if you played as much as the older ones, but do you feel like this game definitely lacks a bit of that impact compared to the old Tenkaichi games?
Well, to kind of explain the context of where I'm coming from, comes to like the way how the game looks compared to a lot of the older games. I played the original Dragon Ball Z Budokai. That game, much as I love it, and the rest of the game, like I still remember the game. It felt very clunky, and that one of my biggest complaints on the game was it didn't really necessarily feel responsive enough. Like, of course, it got the point. It got to the point of what you were trying to do, but for a lot of times, like you're trying to actually press a button, you kind of had to just time everything. Like it just felt very slow. Going from Budokai 1 to Budokai 2, not only did the game look a lot better because they would like more cell shaded graphics, and like just the campaign itself was a lot more interactive. They had like a game where you go ahead and hop around and do different things. You can find different items that can help you out in battle, or you can find the Dragon Ball. And then go into Budokai 3, where they kind of kept that cell shaded graphic type of feel, but they made the production a lot more bigger. Like
yeah.
A lot of the ultimates that you like, they had like their own like on like cutscenes. Like you have like the Broly cutscene where like he just kind of like down in like a football before he charges. He goes absolutely nuts on your now going from those games, not talking about the other world game that, and honestly it has, or Infinite World. I'm not going to count it into this conversation. Going into the first Dragon Ball Tenkaichi game, which by the way, the game was originally called Dragon Ball Sparking.
Yeah, I think it's stupid.
And the reason why they ended up changing it just to get a little more.
Oh, you're breaking up.
Profitable if they were to sell it over the States or overseas.
Oh yeah. I heard
as
that.
Tenkaichi. So they kept it Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi.
Yeah, to get off
the Budokai series, everyone already had 1 through 3, and then like, oh, Budokai Tenkaichi. So this is within the same series, which technically it kind of is, but of Tenkaichi making it like, oh, instead of it just being like, side by side a 2D fighter, it turned into like this whole 3D arena fighter.
Yeah.
And I would say peak when it came to during those times out of the trilogy Tenkaichi series, Tenkaichi really hit them. Tenkaichi 3 for some reason just didn't really hit graphics. But this game, I would definitely say, and it's probably because I also do the animation, like the way how the color, the saturation works within Super. It actually works for me perfectly. I actually think it looks.
Yeah, so it's definitely a preference for sure. I think the color palette is definitely a preference for sure, right? Wouldn't you agree? But
Oh
I mean,
yeah, definitely.
and like I said, the comment trend I was even thinking too is like I forgot to talk about the cut, like the actual cutscenes when you do Super. Absolutely amazing. They knocked that out of the park, right? And I think they're perfect. Like I said, my only complaint is that they should be shorter. That's why, like in Budokai Tenkaichi, the biggest thing I would give it an A is primarily their cutscenes. When I mean, my favorite is Broly. I think Broly, it's perfect. It's not too long. It's got the anticipation and the build up. But it could be. I think to me, Budokai Tenkaichi was a game about form or function over form, whereas this one's more form over function. Like I said, they were shorter, but they also felt. That's the funny thing. If you prefer visuals, this one will be your go-to. But if you prefer actual like gameplay and feel, I think Tenkaichi, the old ones, did a better job. That's just me. As far as the cutscenes, I forgot to mention that. But I mean, like at the end of the day, they look great. Like they're not bad. I can't knock it, right? It's just a lot of this is just nitpicks for me as a Budokai Tenkaichi fan. I'm not a Dragon Ball fan, but I'm a Tenkaichi fan. I know, weird statement to say.
Also, I play Trunks is LOP, but
he is good. He is good. Yeah. And I guess this is getting to another point. I guess we'll go right after the visuals. I think another thing. So like I said, maybe playing back to back, I might see it more to make a video comparison. So you guys can see more. I'm gonna do a comparison video of what is and isn't brought back from old ones, including visuals and even some key features. But I want to talk about. I don't like the soundtrack for the most part, and I guess this depends I think if you're more of an old school Dragon Ball fan, you won't like it. Like you're gonna old Budokai Tenkaichi. This one feels like I said, the problem to me is there's too much Super influences. I don't really care or like Super. Right? It feels too orchestral. It's in the background. You ignore it. The only good song they really have, in my opinion, is the song from when you're training, or not my bad, in the battle training. I don't know if it's the training song or if it's the Rocky Land song, but that's the only one, and it's nice and good. We'll put it in the background here, you guys will hear it. But I mean, what are your thoughts on the soundtrack at least? And the thing is, I'll say this much, like it could be this and that, but if you can't be like, oh, that's my jet, you can't deny that the soundtrack ain't exactly slapping. That's just what I'm gonna add.
The soundtrack is serviceable. There's a lot of songs that I haven't. There's actually a ton of songs I haven't even heard myself.
Well, I tried my best, like you said.
I wouldn't saying it's serviceable. There's a couple songs that kind of do get you hyped in the middle of the fight. I kind of feel like the orchestral part that you're talking about, like perfect example I could think of is during the Zamasu arc. You get a lot of like that orchestral type of feel when it comes to the music playing, and I enjoy it. I enjoy it mainly because like again, I'm a huge Super fan, and I know all the stuff that's going on within this part of the series. So I would give it a 7. There's nothing where it's like if it's playing, I'm gonna be like, nah, I can't listen to garbage, or like nothing that really stands out too much other than the orchestral parts. Like I said, right now I'm listening to the Zamasu versus Trunks fight. Like the way how they're doing that soundtrack as you're fighting, like it sounds good to me, especially since everything like the stakes are high in this battle. So you kind of get that feeling as you're doing this battle, like, yeah, man, you need to finish off this fight. If not, then everything gets destroyed.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So you said you gave it a 7, right?
Yeah, I'll give it a 7.
To me, I wanna, I'll go lower. Maybe I wanna say it is serviceable. Yeah, it's just hard serviceable. I could, because they said you guys can hear this. I might even be quiet for me. Like this song, it feels like it's weird. I know it might be stupid, but I feel like it's the difference between like Dragon Ball Show. Like there's some banger ass intros, by the way. We already know the one with that Broly song. That one's bars, right? Like, and it doesn't have that vibe. Like it's just the intro. Like we said, the intro alone does not slap at all. Like Budokai Tenkaichi 2. Do you not agree? And that's why to me, that's why I'm like, I have to give it a 5. Like, because at the end of the day, it's just serviceable. And this is the only one I can think of. The song feels like something that you would fucking, hear. Like, it sounds like old, like, dun, 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 dun. Like, it sounds video gaming, And Budokai Tenkaichi, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I might even show some examples right now. Mar, if you want to hear back to these while we go along, just to really shoot my point. It's like, you guys try to think of songs that you guys can even think of, right? And I'll even, like I said, I'll share right now if Mar's interested in hearing. And then we can go. Like, this is the best one, by the way. This is the best one. Like, okay, it's nice. It's good training. Like, no. But no one's out here like, oh, man, that's Booty's like, oh, man, that training song is nice, right? But it's not like a fucking knee slapper, Then we go to, like I said, just the intro of Budokai Tenkaichi. It's iconic, And that's why the other reason, to me, I think Budokai Tenkaichi 2 is the most liked. Like, it's crazy, even though some aspects of 3 are better. One, to me, why I immediately didn't like 3 as much, I'm like, the soundtrack just doesn't pump you, Like, you hear fucking... And then, dude, no, here's the best way to put it, you guys. Budokai Tenkaichi 2 OST is I have actually been listening to the OST forever. Like I have these in my likes. You know that's. Remember, I'm not a Dragon Ball fan, but man, these songs just slap. Like here's the opening, right? Like come on, like that is a good intro. You look at that energy that it has. And then it has very iconic lines. It's just something in tune to a fighting game. It has like it's not as orchestral, but it does a better job at like being video game orchestral. Like you hear like the way the guitar, like you know, that's the thing too, the lack of guitars. You know, like it's like they take something that's orchestral and then just video game and rockify it. And I love it. Because at the end of the day, we're here to beat ass. And it's just the iconic. There is, to me, the lack of anything super iconic is really what kills it for me. And there's all kinds. Like I could go all day, right? What's another one? Like I said, you can't see something. Okay, there's the intro. Then what's another one? I'm trying to remember. Like there's some. If you guys remember, there it goes like 1 2 1 2. I wish I could have some of them right. I might put them later on. I'll put them in as examples, right? Just so I don't waste you guys' time. You're like, oh man, he's just going through the thing. But I'll show you examples, and then you will be like, name. You guys don't even know the names, right? Like I remember one where you're in the middle of the stage, or this is destruction, or even the Arctic one. Like they just have a vibe. Like you sit there and like, oh, dude. I've actually listened to this stuff, and it's giving me inspiration for my own personal video game. I don't get that at all with the soundtrack here. Like at the end of the day, it's serviceable. It's not bad. It just isn't iconic, so I have to give it a 5. Like, the only song you have is your training song, and that shit fucking slaps! But yeah, that's just me going into about the soundtrack, and at the end of the day, you know, you guys like it, don't like it, you have to agree, it's only serviceable. Boudakai Tenkaichi, hands down wins this, it's not even a contest. But that goes into another thing, what are your thoughts on the sound design when it comes to hits and everything? I think it's very faithful, for sure, to a degree, but to me, long story short, I just prefer the old ones. I'll show examples for you guys, too.
The Saiyans are a true warrior race! Don't underestimate us! I'll break you! Simple tricks! Taste my true power!
Like, even the voice acting for Vegeta, you know, it's like, Saiyans are the superior beings. Don't underestimate. You can see him mad and he goes, "Ugh." You know, and even the noise, like, it's generic. It's funny. It's the same for everybody. But you fucking feel that noise. Whereas in the new one, Vegeta, he says the line, but he says, da, 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 da. Like, that to me is the biggest pet peeve. I don't know if you have one like that to me. Like, you say, you look, Boudakai Tenkaichi Vegeta's voice line, you're like, oh, he sounds pissed. And, like, he's got ball. This one, like, I don't like it. And the sounds just like, I don't like the teleport. I think the teleport sounds like great. I think a lot of the other stuff, even the Hamehas, whatever, perfectly fine. It's funny because in the other ones, they're less faithful. But like there's a cutscene and there's a sharp shine, kind of like the third strike parry noise. And outside of the teleport and some noises, they don't keep the noise. Like, okay, here's big bang, flashes, like they'll put the noise, but to indicate you're doing it, they'll have like a shine, like, and then they have a bright color, which just is so satisfying. And then when you hear, and another thing I want to talk about, I forgot to mention in the visuals, there's no screen shake. Like, its screen shake is nowhere near as good as the mirror. I think it's a combination of the screen shake, the very quick visual, and then the bright light, and then the sound that accompanies it. And to me, I think, that's why to me, some hits just don't feel as good. I think for sure, like, the base combat, like the blocks, the hits, nope, perfect. I think that for sure the noises they do have that are from the series, it definitely does it better. It's higher quality. I think the teleport noises are better than the OG. Like, they're a lot sharper. Like, that's just me personally, I think. But outside of that, the Hamehas just don't sound as satisfying. I think I wish every super had that generic ding and then had a screen shake with the fucking, you could hear the rumble. And here it doesn't have that. That's just me personally. So sound design, I'll give it above the soundtrack because I think it's a lot better. And obviously it's fake, but I kind of want to give it like a 6 or a 7. I don't know. I'll hear your thoughts and maybe I'll change my mind more. What are some things that stick out to you as far as sound design, like noises and everything?
Well, as I'm playing through this game, I'm gonna have to disagree. I feel like the sound design, like even though the voice actors are a lot older now, back then doing their lines, I feel like the lines are a lot more crisp now than they were back then. I feel
For
like
sure.
like a lot of the interactions that they have now, like especially after doing the line again for like 80,000 times, I think even John Schimmel, the main voice actor for like him meeting up with company like over 80,000 lines over again, and a lot of them ones that I would say even adding the time to it, I feel like they sound better now than what back then. And then on top of that, when it comes to like the umph and the feel, like all the attacks, I feel like it's way better now compared to it was back then.
Like the heavy attacks, I think the heavy attacks feel better in here. Would you not say?
No, even the light attacks, like
Yeah.
I do like if you like your 5-piece combo, like it definitely still has like a lot of umph to it, especially if like the character's blocking, like you really hear him like he's taking like some really strong hits type of deal. It actually sounds very nice. And then even right now I'm actually doing like a little disappearing act against and listening just the way how it sounds. Like I really do like it now, and I think the sound is actually a little better as well. So you have an idea on what's to come and how to block it.
Yeah, I think that basically the other thing is I think the audio clarity is definitely better, and that's why I think, like I said, when it comes to the close combat, I think it's objectively better, but subjectively I just prefer something. Like I said, like I think the ignoring the giant dings and everything, I think, like I said, hand-to-hand combat, it's objectively better, right? And I think it's your preference. I just prefer some especially when you're talking about how stiff it is. I think that's like up to debate, whatever. But for the most part, yeah, like I said, it's clearly because you have better design, animation that could do better follow up, and it's not just a generic hit. And I mean, we were having a lot of fun with the up close, but the far away battles, outside of some of the key blasts, they just don't feel as good. That's just me personally. I think from far away it doesn't do as good of a justice, but up close they knocked that out of the park. And as far as voice delivery, yeah, it's clear, but I think that works against it. Like I like the muffledness to a degree of the old one, because again, you're on a PS2. It added to the grittiness of it. I think this is subjective, but again, it could be that there were not. But I think that the direction, it's not in part of the voice actors, but like I said, and again, it all depends. The thing is, it's a huge cast. It's just that specific line, and I'll show you guys. You objectively, you could even hear like, yeah, no, Vegeta just sounds pissed in the OG. He just sounds pissed. And this is another thing that people forget. I don't know if they changed voice actors for Vegeta or not, but for sure, Broly, like, nah. Like, by the way, Johnny Young Botch did a really good job as Broly in here. But man, there's nothing quite like the OG, you know. And
I'm still a huge Vic Mignogna fan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Regardless, I mean, yeah, hey, you know what? Adam Green Ranger from Power Rangers taking the place that's perfect fine with me. I have no whatsoever. But I will forever say that openly, and I think even that, like a lot of fans believe. Chris still does the voice of Piccolo, Vegeta, a lot of game, and I think he hits. I think he hits a lot.
Well,
like even in a lot of his moments, like of course when you're going in the, I feel like his conviction in his voice, like completely actually sounds very good. Like little moments like that, I actually feel like he's better now compared to like the old.
Mm-hmm.
Like, one thing I will say for certain, one thing that'll never be taught, the actual anime it's first did it. Like that sounds absolutely quality back in the day. But even now, like I still feel like he carries the spirit he originally did in acting for the anime and brought it over to this game in particular. Absolutely insane. I do like the sound and everything.
With that being said, what would you? I want to make it. You know, I think it would make a lot more sense. It's funny how I put overall visuals, but and like I said, I think it's funny because I thought overall, right? I would have been nice. Okay, would have been map design, because you agree too. I think the maps are definitely a 10 out of 10, right? And
hell yeah.
And but do you? I mean, do you share at least my sentiment when it comes to the supers, like both either Kamehamehas or even the CA? Some of them okay, cool, but lacking that feel that again, it could just be me because I just feel like they're not as fun. I mean, of course, they don't even compare to fighting games. Fighting games obviously knock it out of the park when it comes to that. There's no contest. But I feel like visually and auditory-wise, supers, like whether the Kamehamehas or full cinematic ones, just aren't as satisfying. That's just my personal take on it. What would you rate them personally?
I would definitely rate a 9, if not a 10 out of 10.
Okay, so
I really don't have too many complaints on it. And okay. I feel like I said, they hit everything properly for me. Like everything feels right, everything sounds right. The sounds of disappearing, appearing, voice acting, everything for me is like pretty much on its perfection. Okay. I feel like the voice actors this time, I feel like they actually put in a lot of work and effort to make sure that, you know, this is the premier game that you else played. Like
So you would say, for sure VA would be 9, and then the hits and everything a 9, and then same with the supers you were rated 9. So overall 9 across the board then.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. And it's funny because for me, for me, like I said, super. Like I said, at the end of the day, like the fact that I am like, they're just not as satisfying. Like they're good, they have their moments, especially like to me, they're satisfying when you get a good moment. Like, oh, I caught you, right? Like that's the, but it doesn't feel like good to just do it. You know, that's just me. So I have to give it a 6. It's above serviceable. The VAs again did a great job, but like I said, it's just the fact that 2 of my favorite ones, like about Super Saiyan 4 Goku sounds amazing. Thank God. I want to give it an 8, only because of that. Like I said, it's definitely clear. But I just like the delivery a lot more of the old one, and I think that to me, I like the old version more. And same, you know, that's just me. So I want to give the old ones an 8, or like I said, no, this one an 8. If I was the old one, I'd give it like a 9, maybe even a 10. I guess I feel like I want to quote it more personally. So the VA I would give here, and the fact that Johnny that again Big Manana's not here, it's like nah, I'm gonna have to give it hits. I kind of want to agree with you. Yeah, no, definitely a 9. I think in that one I absolutely like. I think that's to me the best part. Like I actually enjoy hitting, blocking. This like it's good. It's good as fuck. And I guess it's another thing we will go into a bit. We didn't mention too much about the training. You didn't really touch the training mode all that much, right? It's kind of skipped over.
I touched base on it just a little, not enough. Like, oh man, this is absolutely the nuts. Mainly because like for me being an old veteran player, I feel like I know enough of the game in order for me to like get stuff right.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're a newbie, I definitely say it's gonna be good for you to play and try out. So definitely don't wing away from it. If this is your very first time playing a Boudakai game or it's a tenkaichi game, definitely jump into it. And on top of that, there's a lot of new mechanics in this game that actually feel pretty great. And I really do recommend, like, you know, just to kind of get a feel for it instead of just throwing yourself into the way how I've done it. Like, just play through the training mode and you actually get a lot of fun out of it. I'm wondering if you complete the training, like, how would you feel afterwards? Like, are you going to be like, okay, yeah, I'm far better than I would have been if I would just stuff into it. But generally, I would say that the best version of training that had in general.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I would say this is where I'm at because I want to separate the training from the tutorial. That's why overall I want to give it a 5 because it's the bare minimum. At the end of the day, it's the bare minimum what any training mode should have, including overall. But I think the training mode it lacks a lot because even people like, especially when we come with something like Street Fighter 6, it's mad fucking laggy. Not every game needs to have an SF6 thing, right? That's fine. But going to train, and again, the fact that it does let you use the second one, you can use training chamber. I think that's great because I was for some reason looping the training with the battle training, for, you know, the actual tutorial. I think the training mode alone, it gets the job done, whatever. And even including if we include the actual the story mode, like I said, teaching you the mechanics, I think it still rounds out to about a 5. I think the actual tutorial is one of the best tutorials I've ever seen. Like I was able to hop in whatever and not feel as lost actually playing the game. And I'm like, oh my god! And that's how you can see a lot of the sauce, and you can still expand upon that. But the training doesn't give you good options to further expand that. Like it's actually better to train first in the tutorial than in the training, because the bot already has its stuff. So that's why I feel to me the actual tutorial should be in a league of its own. It's missing 2 more elements to make it peak. Like I said, if it could have good bars, a better reset, and if it could like convey, because I said we've seen it's missing components like Under Night and Guilty Gear. Like, okay, do this over, check mark 1 time, and then same with like Guilty Gear where it's like, do this like 10 times in a row. Like I think it's missing those because we've seen what they can do, right? Have the right Mars, have like as the battle information, good job. It's actually okay here. She can read whatever, and it doesn't feel like a chore, which is impressive. Under Night did the same thing, so it has that, but it's nowhere near as good or as in depth, or even has whole things dedicated to the system. Like again, it doesn't have things like explaining the way meter management works, right? I think that would have been super fucking nice. That's why to me, like it is very good, but the fact that the text information and things, it could just add more. I think it's right there. I think the fact, like, it's crazy because the one component, like, it doesn't have the good playthrough, go through like Guilty Gear. It doesn't have as much in-depth text like Under Night, and it doesn't have like a mission structure mode, which I think every training mode should honestly have, like trials modes and stuff. It lacks a trials mode. It lacks like, try to teleport behind Piccolo while he does this very specific move or how to parry. That would 100% exponentially make the training way much better. But to get you in your foot on the door, it does it better than any fighter I've ever seen. Here's like, okay, here you go. Here's how to do some stuff. Like, and it breaks it down from like, again, how Street Fighter did it: easy, medium, hard. And I think it did a better job than Street Fighter, in my opinion. Like, I feel like the examples, I don't know, maybe it could just be me, even though technically I feel Street Fighter tried harder than Dragon Ball. Something about Dragon Ball just feels better to me. That's just my personal take on it. Who knows? Game design is a very fickly thing. Who knows? But to me, the training, definitely an 8 out of 10. Like a hard 8 out of 10. And it could definitely be better. But if I'm being honest for what the game is, I think it's sufficient. Absolutely. Even with the training, at the end of the day, I rate this 5 and 8 from an overall perspective. But for the game, I think they're absolutely serviceable. They don't have to go any further, honestly. if I'm being quite honest. Like, okay, I can't do these certain things train mode, just go over to the store, to the actual tutorial mode, and you'll be able to find, oh, I want to practice like vanishing. Oh, let me go to the vanishing one and just keep redoing it, right? Replay. And like I said, part of again, the function with the UI, trying to do some of the reset or having to hold to, or when there's a cutscene, you can't just reset, which is really annoying. If you get stuck in a super, like, oh fuck, I guess I'm stuck here. I can't just reset the thing, which is really annoying. But yeah, to me, that's my thought. So 5 on the training and basic training 8. And he hasn't played it, so you said your overall ranking of the training mode. Would you put it?
You know what? I'll give it a solid. Definitely not too bad, and especially for streaming the casual and that, I feel like it gives you all the tools that you need in order to be as good as you can be in this game. So I'll give it an 8.
Okay, all right, cool, all right, decent. Now, we mentioned the gameplay throughout the whole thing, and I think we'll go a bit more in depth. And this is what I'm talking about in Boudakai Tenkaichi. I want to address what he said about the game for sure. Here's the funny thing about it. Objectively, for both, Dragon Ball Boudakai Tenkaichi obviously has better animations in it. Like he said, it definitely feels less stiff, whatever. Like, it's just the way a lot of old games are like, oh. But depending on who, that's the best way of comparing, like, Street Fighter combos to, like, anime or Tekken. Clearly, they're more smoother because you have a Gatling system. You press square, triangle, circle, it just smooths. There's no timing, so people preferably like it. Whereas in Street Fighter, you have links. You have to actively really kind of... And it takes more skill, and it's a lot harder. And that's the thing. Boudakai Tenkaichi 2 is actually slightly harder than 3, or I mean, 4. And that's why it can feel better, but then also the animations are objectively better, right? Because you don't have the same repeating animations. And what was I getting at with this? Anyways, the whole thing is, okay, yeah, they are smoother, so objectively they are better. But to me, I prefer the old one. Like, yeah, it's different. It had a nice hard feeling because, again, it had that link. And the fact that you have to, it's like a super stiff, like, okay, let me get stuck. But then the fact that you just dash in, and yeah, it's stiff as fuck, but it's so responsive. Here's the funny thing. Yeah, the animations are better, and it's technically easier, so it's technically less satisfying, but it is smoother, so it depends, right? If you're a Street Fighter player, maybe you prefer links over Gatlins, and you prefer them over, I think that's definitely a preference thing, for sure. But objectively, yeah, the animations are clearly better, right? Gameplay-wise. It's all about the feel, and that's what matters, so it depends. That to you, it is on you. I prefer Boudakai Tenkaichi 2 feeling more, but it doesn't feel too bad. To me, it's like, no, this is fine. I like the smooth feeling. At the end of the day, you could just supplement with the design of sound and whatnot, and maybe have like a longer hit stun, and maybe again, anything that I feel Boudakai Tenkaichi 2 was satisfying about, easily they could do patches for this and make it feel just as good and also smoother. Because for sure, objectively, it was, at the end of the day, you are limited in animation and a lot of things are copied, so that's objective, right? So which one you prefer, that's preference, right? But objectively, 100%. Again, I can't stress that enough. When you have a bigger dev team, everything's repeated. That's the case, right? But the other thing I really wanted to get at was the fact that the funny thing is it's not as responsive. For those who don't know, Unreal Engine, a lot of people complain, especially devs, it's very bloated, and that is kind of the case. And I said this before, you guys are wondering, like, the game inherently has 4 to 6 frames of input delay, and there's drops on top of that. So the game sometimes straight up just doesn't feel good to play. The PS2 version kind of runs into this problem only when there's like a cutscene or something, but you don't have control, which is a smart way some games do. They'll move the frame rate structure where it struggles when you don't have control. And it's funny because in here it's the smoothest when you don't have control, which doesn't matter. You want smooth control, and that's the thing. Yeah, sure, it's smoother, but when you press a dash or you do anything, it's more responsive on the PS2 version. And that's due to the fact it's inherent the way Unreal Engine is, and the fact that they're pushing. Remember I said the visuals earlier? Fun fact, the more shit you actually add milliseconds a lot. You guys can check out my mini devlog. I did a bit about this, where I'm trying to cut as many features. So all those particles and everything, that's adding milliseconds of lag. So literally the game objectively, if you were to actually say put jump, whatever, or even a punch, you will notice it is going to be slower. It doesn't matter whether it's PC, Xbox, whatever, it's going to be slower if you play Tenkaichi 4 compared to 2 and 3. And Mar, you know this is a competitive player, that this is something integral, right? I mean, granted, this isn't a competitive game, but it's definitely something that can... I don't think it makes or breaks it, right? For sure, I don't think this is the biggest, most important thing in the world, but I think for people who are veteran players or who play this competitive in a sense, it's definitely can damper the experience a little bit. But I guarantee you haven't even noticed it, right? Would you say? Even if you play fighting games, but you will know that objectively it is something that matters. But for this game, it has...
Oh, no, it 100% is. Like, it's something that definitely matters. I mean, even though for this game, for it being an casual game, with the way of this game and be kind of ticked off, because a lot of it's just going to be a lot of boring ass people playing it and flying all up and down. Like, it's definitely something that you would want. Just a general fighting game where, like, everything just feels smooth and like you transition into all attacks and, like, at all clunky. And at least in this era, like, if there's anything balance patch or, like, kind of fix something up just a little bit, then tweak it, they definitely can. And I'm kind of glad for that.
Oh, they can, totally.
We'll see if they actually do it. I'm pretty sure they're balancing issues, which, by the way, if you're going to start balancing, I think that's messed up, because I don't I don't think any character should literally.
Balanced. Yeah, like I said, unless something's broken, like I said, the infinite that we've seen earlier, which I'll show you guys a clip here from Twitter, and then also that the fact that the dude has the heal so kind of just broken, like objectively broken things, like just kind of ruin the meta. I think for sure patch that. But also, like, wouldn't you say? I want to say this earlier when we were playing online. That further, because I've had times, this is what I mean, that further goes into a thing, the game is unstable. There's times where it dips frames, it doesn't detect your inputs, and the fact that there's lag on top of that means the game can be kind of, for the most part, again, the fact that it's kind of like, as people call it, party game is not the biggest thing in the world. And what did you say? I felt like when we were playing earlier and we were trying to vanish each other, I knew I had the timing right, but I didn't vanish behind you sometimes. Did you have that same problem sometimes? You feel like, wait, I know.
No, I did too. There were a couple times, and man, because I don't have like the right key or the right amount of key, or like.
Mind you, vanishing is not that hard to do, or time it really isn't. It's actually easier in here than it was in the old ones because, again, like I mentioned before, and they know this, they enhanced the window to do it because of the input delay. So it's something the developers clearly knew. Like they definitely knew that is kind of an issue. But like I said, it's the best way to put this. Unless you take this game kind of serious, or you're as good as we are, we don't take it as serious, but we're just really good. It won't affect you at all. It really, really won't. It's minus the dips. And on top, and again, we'll talk about the online. The online just exacerbates this. I think that's another feature that makes this a bit worse. But I think there are times for sure there, and also when it comes to gameplay, like you said, we ran into the bug earlier. You know, I mean, we will get into bugs and actual issues later, but as far as the gameplay overall, I mean, is there anything to add on that? As far as, like I said, like you can tell that for sure there's input issues just inherently. There is no arguing that, right?
No, there definitely is 100%.
But even with that being said, as far as I feel like the gameplay's been spread throughout. But is there anything else more we can add? I think the defensive depth is absolutely amazing. I didn't know there was a high and a low block. There's a good meta. Like I said earlier, you can do square. Like, I think the game's more focused on resets personally over doing long combos, because you could, let's say you do an opening, okay, you get them, you can mash square, and then you have to guess between, okay, do I want to teleport to the side? Do I want to finish them off and do a ground pound right there and then? Do I want to do a key blast? Do I want to do a reset? Do I want to launch them and then have a teleport battle? But the thing is, again, if all the stars align and nothing's wrong, you guys are just gonna have a teleport battle, and then it becomes an annoying thing into who actually has less or more key, kind of in that sense. Also, I'm tracking back. I just realized it. Mini tangent. What are your thoughts? I think the health bars are really whack. I prefer the old ones. So what are your thoughts on that real quick? I'm surprised I completely got...
Strangely enough, for all the stuff, all the great critiques I've been given, I would also agree with you. Like, the health bars in this game kind of mid to trash. Like, they definitely could have done better. Just like the font in the game, I kind of felt they could have just went a little more, like, make it a little more bold, in a sense.
Yeah,
like...
Yeah. Colors are nice. I'll give them the colors are nice. The colors are nice.
The colors aren't nice, but it's like overall,
it's
the health bars looks
it's too small.
Yeah.
It's too small. Yeah, it's a random thing. But looping back to what you're saying with the gameplay, I mean, is there anything else you want to add to that? As far as, like, I think the defensive depth is really good, and there's a lot of options up close. I feel like the game's it's also, I feel like the other thing about the meta is that 100%. I mean, it makes sense. But going Super Saiyan, like that's what I say when you charge away, it's too strong. You get longer combos. The vanishing battle is always going to be in your favor, so why even bother? And I think the Oki window, I mean, I like that there's different... The other thing, as you guys have mentioned, is this game is not balanced at all, and that's the beauty of Boudakai Tenkaichi. If you're playing Satan, it should make sense that you're getting cucked by Super Saiyan 4 Goku. So there is a difference in Oki timing. For those who don't know what Oki is once you get knocked down, the time that it takes, or which the options you can do once you get up. But I noticed the part of the meta is that if they're high up, they don't recover until they get back onto the ground. And this is assuming you're at the same, power level, right? If not, like, say you're Satan and you launch, fucking Piccolo, he's gonna recover quick as fuck. Like, we noticed that earlier, right? We know some those characters just recover quick, which nice. That's a good attention to detail. But if you're playing like an even battlefield thing, like, the Oki timing is way too fucking long. Even with the strat, again, there's a meta. If you hold up, you instantly recover and dash for them, or if you want to instant recover faster, but you'll be in defensive, you hold back. Again, really great options. But man, when you do that, basically, if you get a full knockdown and you push them away, man, you get rewarded with a lot of fucking key. Like, you basically can almost just win that engagement at that point if you can get the right read and knowledge down. Also, I think hitting from the back is just too strong in this game to a degree, especially if you don't know I mean, we didn't have that problem as much because we know how to play, but early on, before I played MAR, I had a huge issue with getting my ass clapped from behind it. I had to watch videos to look up, okay, can I stop getting clapped from behind, right? I think those are glaring issues to in my opinion. And also the fact that there's no key difference charge up between low tier characters to high tier is, I guess, to help kind of balance it, because clearly the game wants you to go Super Saiyan far more than any other fucking Dragon Ball game. That's what my opinion is too. And also, I guess it kind of slightly mitigates, because even when we were playing, we had to force ourselves would be full screen. There was too many times where we were actually engaging up close, and okay, and even to you. So in a sense, I guess you definitely earn it if you get the Oki when you get okay teleport. Because if you get a teleport 3 times and they somehow didn't fucking vanish behind that, again, part of it could be an issue, I think, with the game itself. But like, oh shit, you feel really lucky that you happen to get that. And okay, let me get this. You know, you almost kind of earn that charge. But again, what's stopping you from getting a short combo, a guard break, and then another guard break? But then you slam them. Your Oki isn't as strong, but you get at least some charge and then continue the offense. I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts on what you would say overall as far as some of the meta and gameplay stuff, and the depth too as well? What are your thoughts on the depth?
The depth of the combat, right?
Yeah.
I'll end up saying like the additions that adding in the game actually a lot more interesting than previously. Like it feels more Dragon now, where I mean, besides sometimes the like the ability to be able to like hit in different directions and all the parries and the different blocks and like if you time everything just right, if somebody's trying to do like a really strong attack and you end up doing like that little dodge animation, which I think is freaking awesome. Or like you can even catch somebody's hard attack if you hit it just at the time. Like you catch it and then you just like swing right back at him as your character is knocking smack. Like little stuff like that, I actually think interesting. Makes this game a lot of fun.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's
again,
I'm glad you said
that. Just because they add all this other stuff into the game to keep on driving. So this review.
And I think at the end of the day, a lot of the service, and this is why I love Boudakai Tenkaichi, at all service, like the game succeeds in making you feel like a Dragon Ball character far more than any other fighting game ever. I don't think that's debatable, right? And these mechanics serve to further enhance that. And I think the fact the game has depth is not because the creators tried to make a really good fighting game. It's that they try to make a faithful Dragon Ball game. Therefore, you have to make at least a decent fighting game. Because we all know the fight choreography for Dragon Ball is actually really good. Like, there's even professional boxers that break down some of the swings and everything. I mean, again, I don't know a lot of games that have a low, mid, and a high block. Like, that's fucking crazy. And the crazy thing is, a lot of the stuff's actually pretty reactable. Like, and I like this meta again for teching throws. Like I said, you could tap X. Like, actually, tapping X is a really good option. So, like, because it blocks, you can actually teleport, and it even text throws. But it's not as rewarding, right? And you do have to waste some meter. And then there's a chance you can get hit. There's a risk reward. Like, I think there's a really good balance of risk reward through this game, right? But again, but you could do a counter by holding circle triangle. But that's weak to grabs. The reward is stronger, but now you open yourself up to grabs, right? So it's super, super interesting. And yeah, I mean, you would agree, right? Like, for sure, a lot of it, the mechanics are in service as fan service, not to make, like, the most MLG fighting game in the world, right? Mar?
What was the question again?
I said you would definitely agree that the reason this game even has so much stuff depth as it is because it's in service to the show, and
yeah,
than it is because they wanted to make a super in-depth fighting game, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But again, like you said, fun. At the end of the day, it's all in service of fun. Like, oh, with the Kamehameha clashes. And it's funny. Like, oh, it's not some pro players might say it's annoying, this and that. But like, dude, I love that's fun. And also, it is kind of depth. Like, whichever fucker's more ready, has more meter, and was thinking about it, and can mash harder. Now you're like, oh, you're the better player. Like, when you beat me, I didn't feel like, you know what? I didn't mash hard enough, and I didn't spend my meter. I like, you know what? That's a fair, I'll shake your hand on that one, right? But I mean, you guys should check out the video. I gave my thoughts before. Mar, you want to give your public thoughts at least? I mean, you agree with all that, right? Because I want to lead into the final question that I get. It's a huge one that they're curious about. It's both of us as fighting game players, right? But anything you want to add to that before I ask the final question?
Nothing else I would actually add to it.
So I would say, would you consider this like, because it's weird. And again, I already went to check out it. Would you consider this a competitive fighting game? Would you even consider this a fighting game? Yeah, and it has depth, but do you think it's definitely lacking in like execution? That's something that I said. Like, it has depth. It can be played competitive if you want to, but you're gonna run your skin very quickly with this game, and it's gonna want you wanting more. Especially to me, the biggest number one fault outside, I think the defensive execution is great. I think that's where it does have it. Only with the parry system and the risk reward. Outside of that, the battle execution is non-existent. Same with the super moves, and that to me is the biggest indicator to what makes a really good competitive game. Like, I think it has the bones for sure to be competitive. It could be better. I think that's where I'm at. But I think it's like at the bottom. It's like next to MK in a sense where like it's a good point to get started, but you're definitely gonna get clapped by Street Fighter and Tekken players. Like I would not consider it like the what I'm saying. I want to say that it is a competitive game, but it's not a competitive game in that sense. Like, it's definitely not fighting, and that's where I'm at. That's why I'm in the middle. Like, it's definitely not a brain dead arena fighter. I think it's definitely above, say, something like Naruto. I think Naruto's bottom of the barrel for something you can even consider competitive for arena fighters. But arena fighters overall are a joke. Same with party games. That's why I feel like calling Dragon Ball party game, like, it can be, but it's more just a fighting game. Like, it's in the middle. It's not super casual. It's got casual, but it's got depth and bones for people who want more. I mean, I don't know. That's just my take. I mean, what is your personal opinion, Mr. Tekken player?
Yeah, this game definitely has does not have as much depth as much of other fighting games. I will say like in terms of like especially casual play, this is like Mortal Kombat XXXY or like attended like side direction X or like little simple stuff like that. It isn't anything that's super, like out of this world. Like oh my god, how did you do that? You're not really finding anything that's like out of the ordinary from what the usual combos that you'll be seeing. So yeah, I would definitely say it's on par. Any other casual game that you really think of that is like going beyond the step of like, oh man, like you like the way how sidestep in Tekken works not work the same way how it does in this game.
Oh,
like
no,
don't
no.
get me wrong, you do dodge stuff with the sidestep in this game, but like it's definitely not the same.
Yeah, like it doesn't have like moves that track. Like personally, I prefer the sidestepping in here more because it works better, which is honey. But it doesn't have the depth in sidestep. It's as simple as do I know he's gonna hit or am I gonna react? It's simple. Like, it's simple 1-2. It's not like oh you have to sidestep electric wing off. It's this specific thing. It doesn't have that level of depth, right? For sure. And like you said, I think basically to reiterate too, it's like it's the peak of anime arena fighters in terms of depth and competitiveness. But when it comes to other fighting games, you're like at the bottom, bro. Because it like you said, and then even people could want. I hate when people they said about Naruto, oh, it's a game about resources combos. Like, no, it kind of does matter. I think that's why this game has more depth because you can't just simply brain it like, okay, like in Naruto, once you get your opening, whatever, you don't have to really think about the combos. And yeah, there's some execution and cancels, but they're really relatively easy to do. You just got to know how to do them, and it doesn't affect your overall meta. Like in Street Fighter, you have to, and even in Tekken, if you play a real character, you have to play differently depending if you know how to do a certain combo or not. And in here, again, it has that depth, and again, that's why I always say the defensive. Do I want to do this combo or not? This is the only arena fighter where you have to think about the type of combo you want to do. It's the only one, but only because of the defensive mechanic, right? But the execution itself is not all that hard. It really, really isn't. Doing the cancels. And again, to me, I think the movement and the defense and the dodging, that's where the execution is. Like closer to like Tekken, where it doesn't have execution overall in the cast, but it's Korean backdashing its execution. And even then, Dragon Ball is definitely not at the level of Korean backdashing, because at the end of the day, anybody with enough practice and training in a month can master most of what Dragon Ball has to offer. Whereas Korean backdashing literally can take years, And that's the kind of level that you guys don't really understand that, well, that's what execution is how long does it genuinely get? That's what's kind of the key thing of like sports, right? And again, go check out my more video about more thoughts on that. But at the end of the day, I think to me, the main thing that Dragon Ball has, I think it does a better job of wanting you to get better than Mortal Kombat. That's just me, because Mortal Kombat is just too stiff. And it doesn't have, like, because of the fact that it's not 3D, it doesn't incentivize you to, okay, let me go left. Like, I find myself sidestepping more in here than I do in Tekken. Like, I think that's the funny thing is that because of the format, it encourages you far more than even some fighting games to be better, Like, I think the low entry barrier and that there is a skill ceiling depth, but the fact that you can clearly see it, and then, oh my god, it seems overwhelming, but then when you're like, oh my god, you kind of get there by simply doing it. And then there's like a third level where it's like, okay, that's all the meta stuff, like actually like they call it -1. See, they actually even, like, this game has depth when people actually start doing frame data. Like, dude, Naruto players don't fucking use frame data. But it's so situational, and it's in certain cases, it's like, okay, and again, it's mainly in the mid-close range where I've noticed, and in the certain supers, like with the command grabs and shit. But at the end of the day, once you know this, really isn't that hard to execute the game plan, Like most of the depth, once you go past the first stage, everything is minor layers, But that's the best way I can say it, for sure. It's not a super competitive game, but it's a great game to give you a taste of what it's like to try to get competitive. I think that's the best way I could put it. I think it's a great gateway drug if you want to get into competitive games. Would you not agree, at least?
Yeah, I can agree.
Anything else you want to tell? I mean, would you say? I know I went off a bit, but
Oh no, nothing to really add on that, man.
So, okay, cool.
You hit it right on the button.
All right, cool. Again, check out my other video about all that as far as... I feel like maybe I dragged on a bit too long, but I think it's a super important component. And at the end of the day, like I said, the main thing is, no, this shit's fun as fuck. Fun as fuck, I don't even want to really give it a rating, because I think it's just such a nuanced thing. And at the end of the day, if I were to really give it, I would say... I would say maybe 9 out of 10, only because I feel Boudakai Tenkaichi 2 is better in a lot of senses. What would you rate it? Is overall feel, depth, whatever? Like I said, it's definitely one of the best fighters you can play, period. I will not stress enough. So, to me, I give it like a 9. So just in a sense, like, oh, for fun or feel, not the in-depth conversation and everything. What would you rate it? Like,
Let's see.
Because I feel like I can enjoy it more.
If I were to rate this game, now here's my thing. I would definitely give this game a 9, but there's one little on here.
No, go for it. I mean, we're at the issues part right now, so this is technically a good transition. Also, lastly, I will say, again, the other depth is, like, I do like that the environment is part of the depth. Oh, let me go hide or make them underwater. Again, extra layers, and it's fun stuff, and I feel like more fighting games. See, it's things like that I want to incorporate into my fighting game, believe it or not. Like, those things are fun, maybe not that quote necessary or don't elevate the skill ceiling, but it definitely adds depth. Even if it's just one extra small decision making, I think Boudakai definitely excels in that. That I also want to add. Also, the meter management is not that complicated. Like I said, the meta is easy. Okay, let me get a good Oki, full charge, GG, shake my hand. Like that's boring. Like that's boringer than Drive Rush or building meter in Street Fighter 3. So fuck off anyone who's oh, Naruto's a game about meter management. It's like, dude, Street Fighter 6 pisses on Naruto's meter management. Shut up. Anyways, go into the issue. That's my issue, at least. But carry on.
My number gigantic issue in this game, the online.
Oh yeah.
During the last portion that we ended up conversation of I were actually playing. That's the extent of how much online we've played, and it's mainly because I don't know what it is. I mean, we've been playing on the Xbox. Maybe that has
something to do with it. I feel like to a
reasons
degree, but even then, that's still no excuse. Because again, we've seen on the forums that everybody else is also having this problem. And like I said, we might cut this one a bit short because you guys can check out my video of talking about the online is the biggest issue. Like 100%, this is the biggest issue, hands down. And then we even went to the rant on earlier. Like that was, by the way, that was our exact reaction. We were playing and just disconnected. You know? Carry on. Mark.
Yeah, out of the blue. Like we're literally just sitting there having. Oh, okay, that's. I do not like that whatsoever, and I don't think anyone on this planet even enjoy anything like that. So for the fact that we have this situation, it's like it kind of blows my mind a little.
It also I want to kind of add a little tangent a bit too, is the fact that it kind of does show you that the game wasn't. Again, the developers definitely come in mind. We want to be faithful, like some competitive, but they're not, because remember, you can see they didn't put that much effort in the training mode, and they didn't put that much effort. Like if they really cared about the game being competitive, they would have added rollback. Like the fact this game doesn't have rollback definitely kills its chances of a competitive game, especially in the modern day and age. If you have bad online, dude, that is a death sentence for the competitive scene. You know, that's why I'm saying when there's tournaments, I'm like, bro, how are y'all playing? I can't even get a match. Dude, literally, me playing with Mar was like maybe the second time I was able to play, and when I tried the other one, we disconnected immediately. You know, fucking crazy.
Yeah, so I mean, hopefully over time they do fix that. If they do, then freaking awesome. If not, then
yeah, it's a huge issue. No, it's crazy. Yeah, no, I'm looking at Steam charts right now, you guys. That's something I'm glad. So this is going to be different about this one. I'm looking at it right now, and the player base for the you'd think it would last. It's a really super fun game you can play for hours. It dropped by more than half. It hasn't even been 7 days. Your shit should not drop that hard. So it's very clear that see, look at this dip. There's a huge. I guarantee you that's because people were getting tired of the online. I think the only people who are doing this, and I've noticed most of the times the lobbies who are playing is because they're playing with friends. Which again, that's the main way the game is going to play. At least thank God there it's fairly. But like to me, I haven't even been able to get a game to range. And on top of that, with the UI, see, this is the thing. Everything why I think that's why I ranked it. The UI elements that don't work, the long loads, along with the unfunctional, not thought out rank. Like again, this game that was not its focus for sure. But definitely, this is the #1 biggest flaw about the game. Go check out my video, whatever. But yeah, again, look, just Steam chart says everything. Well, it's not the indicator. Like, homie, no, it's a decent indicator. So it's not just an Xbox problem. It really, and on top of that, we're both wired too. That's the other crazy thing is that it's not online. That's for sure. I pay for good internet, and I'm wired as fuck. So that ain't fucking it, you know. And someone says servers, like, bro, first of all, so you guys don't know what shit is like server. If that's a server, then okay, they should have known from their pre-orders they could have got it bigger. So that's still not an excuse. But no, this is a peer-to-peer. There is no servers. Maybe there's servers for like. Maybe a score or something, and that's super minimal. It doesn't really engage. The best it does is, okay, you guys connect. Like, good example, Street Fighter 5 has servers, but that's for, like, CFN points this, and then connecting in your names, and that's it. But once you're connected to each other, the server has nothing to do with your actual gameplay outside of getting information of who won, who lost, and then puts it in a leaderboard. That's fucking it. Again, take it from someone who's an indie dev. So to me, no. This game, it's oddly not the worst, but it's really bad. To me, the fact that trying to get a match is cancer is the worst aspect. Like, the online, as far as a delay-based one, it's pretty okay. It's not the worst. That's the funny thing. Like, the actual, when you play it, it's fine for the most part. I think it inherently has bigger issues inherently in the engine than it does with the online. And by the way, they're not just going to add rollback. That's not happening. Retroactively fitting rollback is really fucking expensive. And if they wanted to, they would have done it from the beginning. Just look at the Mortal Kombat team, and it cost them a lot of money. I don't think Bandai is going to fund to retrofit rollback. And I think it would be a lot harder for a game like Dragon Ball than it would be for fighters, because for fighters they did, and that's a lot more feasible. But this game is just pushing. Like, they would have to actually downgrade hard to do. Actually, I won't get into the whole thing about rollback, but they would have to downgrade some of the visuals to do it. And clearly, like I said, Arxis didn't do this, so the team is not familiar at all with rollback. So they're not even gonna do it. Like I said, so I just don't see it. They're not familiar with rollback. They would have made an announcement or something, and it would be. And I'll tell you this much: even if they do, it's gonna be not great because they have no experience. They would either have to hire Arxis to help do it, but Arxis doesn't make arena fighters. So if you ask me, the online is as good as it gets. Like it works, it's functional, and it's fine. I'd say it's one of the better delay based ones. But for competitive gameplay, like homie, local's the way to go. Far more than any other fighting game, especially now with rollback being the norm. I mean, just look at Tekken, how much more playable that shit is. And even if you have delay base, why can't we choose our delay frame? Like, there's just certain things that it's definitely lacking for sure. The online is the weakest component. So adding that and then, and it's a shame. It's definitely delegated to the game you play with the friends. That is 100% what this game is. And even then, it's got like, okay, you kind of. You know, oh, also another thing that we were talking about before, the fact that you couldn't even fucking change the settings when you're already in a lobby. What the fuck? Anything? I mean,
that's a little wonky. Like they could have done better.
Like it feels like the online was an afterthought. That's the best way to put it, even though it definitely wasn't. Because I want to go back, sort of look back. Is I want to give the modes a 5 because I think they could have added more. I think they are good for what they are, but the fact that only in reality all we have is okay. Here's a story campaign, and you are right. I only really care about playing Vegeta and Goku. I don't care for the rest, so I'm very limited in how much I can play. I think it has decent replay value, so the story itself is like a solid 5/5. I don't really care for the custom battle too much. I think the training is great, so maybe like a 6. But in reality, you don't, and then the online, okay, that's what you have, but it's barely even functional. So it's like it has the bare minimum. When you look at it from a subjective point, everything. Okay, you have okay arcade thing that's entertaining. I don't really care for custom battle. It's like okay, a little side thing, and then you have a really good tutorial. That's the most standout thing, and your online is ass. So you have only 4 modes, and only one of them is really good. The other one's okay. The other one is make or break, and the other one is ass. That's not a really good, especially for $70, dude. No, I'm gonna have to give you a 5. What would you say for sure? What would you give the overall modes if you could? What is your ranking if you would, especially paying $70 fucking dollars? Do you agree?
I mean,
it's serviceable.
To give the overall ranking the game as a complete package.
Oh no, just the modes. The modes. Like I said, no, because I'm gonna add them up.
The
and
modes.
That's like, don't you feel like there could be more? Like that's the main. That's why to me, remember, especially me as a dev, like, no, we need more modes. And then what we do have, I mean, for you, to me, it's a 5 because, like I said, I don't really care for custom battle as much. It's like meh, and the online is ass, so it's already 2 negatives. And the good thing you do have is the tutorial, but that's not like elevating it that much in the campaign. It's serviceable. And if it wasn't for the fact,
I guess the next question would be like, what would I want to add?
Exactly.
I can imagine a couple of little mini games you could do,
exactly.
like adding more features. Where like, perfect example, Goten and Trunks are like playing games together with Pilaf and the gang, and they're running around Capsule Court. Exactly. As you're running around Capsule Court, hey, you could be playing hide and seek, but also Dragon Ball out of Capsule itself. That'd be a lot of fun.
Or like I said, Trials. I think Trials would be absolutely elevated, 100%.
Trials would be pretty dope. Even a mini game of as beer, you're trying to serve food to beers, trying to make him happy. Right. So like you're playing as let's say Yajirobe, trying to make food for beers. I think that would be pretty fun as well.
Right. Again, just to make it not feel so empty, because even after I was done and did everything, I was like, in the replay, I'm like, what else can I really do? And to me, I would give this like an 8 if the online was just really fucking good, but it's not. So to me, that's why I gave it a 5. What would you give it then? Saying all that, add modes that we could add. See, you already know how.
Okay, adding everything all together, I would definitely say it could have been better. I'd still give it a 7 just because I feel like there's enough of a variety here for you to play. Just on the aspect of, I do like the custom battles. I do like being able to go back and forth and doing a lot of different things. Even in the episodes, having what if scenarios inside of the episodes themselves.
That's the highlight.
It's actually pretty fun. So if anything, I would still give it at least an 8.
Oh, an 8? Okay, fair enough. I'm gonna stick with 5 because, like I said, especially as a developer, I'm a high standard of please give me more modes. That's just like I said, but dude, in one day I basically got most of what I can experience, and only until now I played again. I got bored of it already, and again for $70, I have to give you. That's just me. But with that being said, I think we talked about most of the things actually. We didn't talk. Okay, I think we have one last thing. So did we talk about the fan service? We didn't talk about the fan service. I think that's the final thing we can know. We didn't talk about. I mean, we mentioned it here and there, but we really didn't go that in depth, right?
No, we didn't really go in depth with it.
I mean, it's here. So all you guys need to know for sure, the game is definitely fan service over function in a sense. I like that good example, like I said, with the underwater feature. If you're underwater, you actually key charge slower. We test this. This is true. And then also, if you're choosing an Android, what was it? They can't key charge. All those little elements. It's a lot of it is retained. I would say 8 out of 10 things from Boudakai Tenkaichi 2 still remains in Boudakai Tenkaichi 3, in my opinion. It's a lot, and the thing is, no, there are videos. You guys can check them. I'll show you the series. Like, it's an hour something long, and he has in parts. How many small attention to details make this game? And to me, I said this again, a mini tangent thing, whatever, from before, was that's what makes Boudakai Tenkaichi, is the fact that what other game are you going to have an interaction where, oh, you have a scouter? I feel like that is what it's liking, right? They don't have the scouter thing. Like, okay, if you have a scouter, it's easier to detect people, right? But if they destroy your scouter, like, oh, okay, whatever. You know, I feel like to a degree, it's definitely missing some of those fan service elements. Like, in gameplay-wise, I'm talking about gameplay and function. It's definitely missing some of those. Like, oh, good example, like someone has glasses in the old one. I don't know if they have it. Like, if you use solar flare, they actually can't get blinded because the glasses protect them. I don't know if that's still here. We'll check that, so you guys will put that up. But I did notice that it doesn't seem to affect some of the bigger characters as much. And if you're, say, behind a rock, it doesn't affect them. So again, those attention. I mean, what are other things that you personally like that you've noticed that they do have in here? Like, good example, when I thought they didn't have the feature where if you do a Hamehameha, like a really big one, and you miss or you hit them and it hits the ground, it completely changes the stage. I'll show you a clip here where we lost our shit. Like, oh my god, it's actually in here. Like, that shit's sick. It's fun, and it's actually like, imagine having the fan service be a gameplay feature and something that's fun at the same time. Like, that's crazy to me, you know?
Yeah, that's pretty nuts.
Yeah, is there anything else that you can think of that's noteworthy? And also, it's ingrained into their moves. Like, again, they're fan service, but it's like their functions. You know, I mean, I feel like you go off a lot more about this because you're the bigger Dragon Ball fan, so you would know more than I would. Like, what are some other scenarios you can think of that are definitely in this game or things you appreciate it?
For shits and giggles, the one arc will both Piccolo go get their driver's license. I think that'd be a fun thing to add into this. That also be a good way for you to like get like a whole city, or like you're just driving around. You kind of like give yourself the tour all while playing this, driving around and not trying to run over people. Or even if since Goku, because remember, inside the series, Goku and Chi-Chi they actually radish farm. So if anything, you can play on the farm as Goku and like picking up the radishes, and that's something else you'd be able to
see.
Like there's a lot of stuff you could do. Oh hell, Yamcha is a baseball player. There's like a whole storyline that Yamcha ends up challenging or basically just has like a baseball game, and like he kind of has like his little glorious Vegeta. So like he finally gets like a win up against Vegeta just because he's a baseball player. Krillin's a police officer. You get batting that. Master Roshi and like having like a little like swimming competition with your turtle. Definitely do that. Like there's 100 things I can think of that you can end up adding into the game to feel more fleshed out. Mm-hmm. But like it really all depends on their imagination as well. Like obviously we want all fights in that, but a lot of the part of why Dragon Ball is so loved is slice of life moments are actually a lot.
Yeah, I would agree. Absolutely. Yeah, no, and if people think, oh, that's not necessarily, it's not what you have to do. Like, no, it is, because at the end of the day, it's fan service. And we were talking about, those are just fan service things that are in there. And like I said, for every 8 things this one has, I think Boudakai Tenkaichi had 10 more. So there's only 2 missing. Like I said, we didn't have, like, the key charging is, again, if you're using Satan over Super Saiyan 4, for some reason, it's the same. And we test this. We tested this, by the way. But again, if we have those attention, these are great modes. Like you said, well, the thing, like, it has a lot of charm. It really makes the game feel more full, in my opinion. You know, so don't just limit it, like, and it's crazy. I was just completely thinking in the gameplay aspect, but even, yeah, look at that, the menus or things. I don't know. I feel like, and again, that's why the main menu is so good, because it is a fan service thing. And even me, as someone who's not a fan, I'm like, I enjoy, like, oh my god, that's a great menu transition. And it's not that bad. Like I said, they could just simply put a black to white, and that's it. It would, like, completely fix it. But I mean, I don't know. Do you feel like this game? I mean, outside of that, like, there's definitely like those kinds of examples. But do you feel like the game? Is there anything that you personally notice that this game is feeling that maybe might bother you? Like I said, minus the key charge difference, or you feel like they could add in game, like gameplay wise, as far as fighting, that would be like a fan service moment. They'd be like, oh, again, like I said, like the whole thing with the glass, like, oh, that's all cool. I think for sure they don't have that in here. I could be wrong.
I mean, well, nothing too much. I mean, other than the little stuff that I ended up adding. For the most part, I know there's only so much you could do with a game like this.
True. Fair.
But like at the same time, remember we come from a day and age where like games like back in the day, Pokemon Stadium, were like, oh, okay, it's just not all about Pokemon battling. Where like we had like all those little mini games we were able to play.
Yeah, dude, that's actually the main reason I like those games. Dude, you're cooking, bro. You're actually cooking. That is fact. I actually would play the mini games more than Battle Stadium, and Battle Stadium is a good game. I'm a cap. That's actually a really good point. But also another, I guess it's a different. Like, to me, I mean, I don't know if I guess it's fan service. I don't think there is no real way to rank it. It's all whatever, so we'll just leave that as it is. But the other thing I will say, I think the game is too fan servicey when it comes to, like, the anime, if that makes sense. Like, when it comes to the sound, like I said, I don't really care for the super... Like, to you as a fan, do you feel it's, like, ignoring those elements in gameplay, when it comes to like some of the visuals or cut scenes, like clearly they're very faithful, and even same with like the super arc or whatever. How do you feel? To me personally, I could care less. I don't care. I only care if it's something that's a mode or it's in gameplay. Because like I said, I'm not a big Dragon Ball fan, right? I don't care how faithful. Like, oh my god, it's got the lines and everything. You know, like to you, was there fan service moments there, or maybe like a cheeky dialogue or something that stuck out to you playing through the campaign? To me, I wouldn't have never noticed this. To me, that's kind of like whatever. Again, and then we talked about the voice acting and this and that. Like, were you satisfied as a Dragon Ball fan with the fan service that was provided to you, purely in visual aspects, right, and in sound, in that sense?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Okay. Okay.
I enjoyed everything that we had. I enjoyed like all like the little nuanced moments that we had as well. All the little snippets that they added. Like one of my favorite animations is Master Roshi doing the Kamehameha. Like he does his little speech from
Oh yeah, that was actually good. True. Yeah.
I think that's genuinely pretty damn cool.
I think for the so basically, sure, you're happy as a fan for sure what they did do, right?
Oh yeah, 100,000%. I am
Okay,
happy.
okay, fair enough. To me, I would say the fan service, the parts that do hit, I guess it's all delivery, whatever. But again, like I said, I love Broly Super CA. I love same with the Groshi and the what if to me, I love. Like to me, it like I said, we already see me suck it off. True love lever that I could feel it. I'm like, this is 100% the most fan servicey shit ever, and I'm all here for it, right? You know. But I think that literally actually rounds out the review in a sense, and it's gonna be a bitch to edit. And overall, I'll put what it is, and then I'll put like out of 10 because it's a lot of things. And you guys see, specifically see, so you guys see this. I think it's a good ranking, not just an overall. Like this is we combine everything, it'll be like out of 100 or some bullshit like that. So you guys could see the overall thing, and then they'll be like, okay, individual, like specifically why? Because someone like, why did you give it an 8? It's like, oh, the gameplay's great. Like, no, we think the gameplay's 9, but everything else is ass. You know, I think this is a much more quantifiable way to do it. What do you think? I think this might be my second time reviewing something. What are your thoughts, Mario? Especially on top of that, you're a part of this as a co-host.
No, if anything, we pretty much hit everything out of the only thing I really do wish and be able to find some matches against other people.
Yeah.
Just so I can get more of a grasp for the way how other people play online to give me an idea of like, you know, how much they've gone through versus how much I've gone through. Like I don't mind that. Like I'm not trying to like jump even though I even tried in rank to find a ranked match. Like I'm not trying to like be like the number one Dragon Ball tenkaichi player of all time. I'm just here to have a bunch of fun and like I said, clash my action figures against someone else's action figures. That's all this game is.
And mind you guys, as me as a reviewer of Mario, you could say it's a good speech to end it off. The reason why I do this kind of format and why I even start off with the price, I feel price can really skew your opinion on something. Because if you have all the money in the world, 70 doesn't mean anything. And if you have nothing, 70 is too much. That's why I said like price is relative. I want to view this as an art. That's what you guys need to understand. And again, well, the number one thing is it just fun and do I feel like it? And price is one of the first things that does come up. That's why again, content is a thing. And the thing is, even whether you pay $10 or $70, you're gonna feel when there's no fucking content. You're gonna feel when there's lag, this, that, whatever. At the end of the day, it's how satisfying, how happy. And on top of that, you know, and that's the two things, right? The price is its own thing, so we disclaimer first. But how is it like, you know, how fun? Like to me, I say, if we were to give it a fun meter, easily 8 out of 10. 9, right? But it never reached that 10 for me personally, but definitely 8 or 9, right? Like it's fun as shit. It's one of the funnest games I played for sure. But everything else about it brings it down. That's why to me it's like a solid 8, lowest 7. But I definitely prefer Boudakai and Tenkaichi. And again, that's at the end of the day, the thing is two comparisons, right? That's gonna really skew. That's why we're trying to look at things objectively, comparisons, whatever. And then also as an art, at the end of the day, how does it stand up to? Again, that's why that's more so why I even put the score in the first place. You know, some people, and then sometimes maybe it helps. And again, also too that we separated why and we explain in good detail. Super long, big shout outs to any of you stuck around this long. I mean, probably if you care, you probably did. But do know that's how I'm looking at this, right? We already gave off as a product. It's not worth 70. Almost no game is. At the end of the day, they're just trying to take your money. Because nowhere should you try to... It's a completely different conversation. Because at the end of the day, what the game is worth to you, it's to you. You know, a game is one of the best games of all time. If it costed 10, you're like, damn this shit. I mean, to me, one of my favorite games... Oh, Doom, Neo, you know, fucking, like, fighting games. Like, bro, I would... $100 ain't shit because I know I'm getting my... Like, I spend easily 1,000 hours in Neo, Doom, you know, Street Fighter. You know, to me, the reason why I give shit for Street Fighter 2 is because at the end of the day, you are a product and you sell to millions of people. It's not just to me. You know, if you were to put value to a game, then that's where it's different. That's why we have these scores. Then, oh, this game's worth, you know, if you ask me, like some of these games free to play, they ain't even worth shit. Or some of these other games that are worth 60, 70, or a good example like Concord. Bro, you couldn't pay me to play that trash. You know, that's why to me, price is its own different conversation, right? And it, for the most part, it's a product. That price, the product, there's not an art discussion in there. It's like, are you getting your money's worth? You know, how you feel is not a good way to quantify price, right? At the end of the day, is do you have the money, and is this thing gonna provide you? Again, it's just simple economics, right? That's why some people who only play games for length, it makes sense, but also why it includes, is the game even fun? That's the overall important thing to me. I care way more about what this lasts in the age of time. That's how I've always looked at games, and part of it is due to price, because at the end of the day, how much, you know, you take the price aside, how many times are you going to keep playing this game? How much did you enjoy the time you were playing? That's why to me, I'm, again, like Deus Ex developer, one of the best developers of all time. Look at all these open world maps, 100 hours, nothing to do. I'd rather, instead of having a map that's, you know, a mile wide but only an inch deep, that means, okay, it's super big but you have nothing to do in it, or being, you know, super small but really deep, it's like, why don't we have the best of both? A decent sized map, but filled to the brim with shit to do, right? And that's why I think that's why fighting games are so great, because that's where one of the peak of gaming is. Homie, even though for what little modes you do have, what little characters, this, I mean, way less than Dragon Ball, there's so much shit you can do and grow inside of a fighting game, right? And that's what people don't really understand, and it's very hard to mimic that. And that's why Neo is one of the closest, because it has a full campaign, it's 100 hours long, and the combat depth is insane. And that's why difficulty is also a very important conversation as an art, because if you suck at games, that's the thing about art, right? It's the same as, you guys can check out my video, is that if you're a kid, you're not going to enjoy high art literature or movies like you would an adult, you know? So that's what you guys need to really understand, is that there's a reason it's called opinions, right? I want to view it this as like, you might say, oh, his review is wrong, this and that. But then 10 years later, you can be like, holy shit, this dude was right as fuck. You know, because you will change. Things happen as you do as an adult. And me, Mark, can even attest, I am a mad-ass seasoned gamer, right? And the way I'm approaching this, I mean, hopefully do you think it's at least fairly? I mean, it's a combination of professionalism and just being real, right? Like, this isn't scripted at all. I feel like scripts do exist for a reason, but for certain things, that's not the case. And to me, when it comes to reviews, it really depends on may or may not script. But for this one, like I said, for the what's the case, I mean that's the best way to put it, right? You guys understand that I really want to convey is that I want to convey this as a product or a production of not a product or money or crash grab, but as something as art and as entertainment, you know. That, and try to explain at least, you know, from medium to high, because I won't be able to convey that much for people who are super low level, right? Because we just don't see the same thing, right? Like, I'm the kid who's out here reading ABCs is not going to understand the Da Vinci Code, and I'm going to sit here and get bored as fuck reading ABCs. That's why I can't play games like Kirby, and it pisses me off because I fucking grew up and love Kirby. You know, you just change when you get, you know, you'll experience this anywhere in life. Like, I want to say that enough. You do, especially as human beings, you do enough of the same thing, you will eventually get bored. And if so, oh, I don't, then either one, you're lying, or two, you are not doing the same thing, right? Like, when you played Street Fighter for the first hour, it's not going to be the same by the 1,000th hour. You're not playing the same game at that point, right? But I mean, what are your thoughts on that? At least would you agree with that statement, Mr. Mar, the professional?
I mean, you just pissed off a bunch of World of Warcraft players, but
oh, I mean, you guys don't really play a game, so just eat that shit. I like that.
But yeah, I mean, the fun factor in this game is really
the most important
actually
thing.
This game.
Absolutely.
And I for as much as I hate $70 at all whatsoever, at least
this is the best $70
when they did like the out of a lot of $70 games that came out. I'll put this in the fun factor with, like, Warhammer, Helldiver.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Like, this has been a really good year when it comes to, like, games that everyone
especially this month.
Oh yeah, especially this month. And then on top of that, we have the big jerk not coming week. I don't know if you want to do a review on that one, but I am definitely down for that.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, for the most part, fun factor really comes down to it. Is it worth $70? I mean, if you really love Dragon Ball and you already know the game is not really gonna come down on sale unless you get like those Christmas sales coming up soon,
then
I would say go ahead and get it. Definitely wait for a good sale, and then I guarantee you're gonna have a blast on it.
And have people to play with on top of that. This game is a game meant to be played with, and that's the other thing too.
Please have friends to play with this game.
Yeah,
please.
For sure, because that's another thing we can't stress enough. You guys see from the online sector, have people to play with. And then I agree. Even as a gamer, isn't art at the end of the day? Is this is like I say, objectively Neo, this and that. At the end of the day, is it fun to you? And that's the other thing that I can't stress enough, is that everyone's got their own opinions. To me, this is opinionated, a super fucking fun game. I have a lot of hope for everything, and I really fucking enjoy everything a lot. Like, especially a lot of fighting game losers hate that it's not balanced. I think that shit's stupid. I think that's not fun. Technically, is it competitive? Sure. Is it fun? Fuck no. Like, I know when to step outside like my own little circle and be like, nah, fuck that shit. And even as, again, to me, even at the end of the day, this is an art, whatever. I'm ranking and everything. Even me, I agree with the core. Is this shit fun? Like, at the end of the day, because at the end of the day, you gotta remember what the core is of video game is. It's fun. It's like the same kind of dumbasses who say, oh, I'll only play a game that has good story. Homie, go read a book. if you really care about story. Or other people that say, oh man, I don't like this song if the lyrics aren't good. Homie, do you have any idea when we first even discovered lyrics? We didn't have lyrics for thousands of years. Music existed the second we blew into a flute, bro. What the fuck are you talking? You know, that's asinine same. So same thing is, for as much as I might think I might have my head up, I was like, no. At the end of the day, it's fun. And you know what? For as good as it might be with everything, that's why I try to get any game, no matter what it is, give it a shot. You know what? But this review might even convince you, but then you play, oh my god, this shit feels good. You know, and that's the thing about games is that a lot, unless you're at my level where you can look at a game and be like, yo, that shit's trash. It's an acquired thing. You have to be good at games and understand them to look at something like, that shit's trash. Trust me, not everybody has. That's why, again, reviews exist. You guys aren't sure and you want... And then the other thing I recommend too is find people who have very similar taste and you can understand well. That's the best thing I can also recommend is this is, again, as a culture piece and people who want to have a genuinely deep conversation about this kind of stuff. That's what this is for. To a degree, if you're on the fence or maybe you are a lower level, I recommend you go watch people who you know. Like an example, when it came to COD, I loved Maximilian's videos about Ghost because what he has fun in COD is the same thing I have fun in COD, right? It's the same thing where every fighting game has its spice. Like, let's say, for example, I fucking hate Korean backdashing, and Mar loves it. Then we know for sure, okay, Tekken's not for me, but Tekken's for him, right? Like, in finding a content creator that you know you have parallels with, that he enjoys the same thing, you know, he's playing the game for you. That's why having multiple reviews makes sense, because, you know, maybe you're like, oh, I don't like this and that, or maybe you don't know what is or isn't hard, and someone, maybe they suck at doing anime combos or maybe fighting game combos, and they're like, you know what, I suck at fighting games, but man, I fucking love Dragon. And you're like, oh, I play, like, you could see yourself, like, you know, you could see your gameplay, your style, and you agree with all these points, then more than likely you'll go there. Like, that's why I don't like the recommended tab in Steam. Like, no, to me, go to people who you trust and you know, like, oh, that's me. Those are the people you should definitely trust the most, more than anything. That's my personal opinion when it comes to reviews, if you're on the fence, and especially when it comes to gameplay, because at the end of the day, it's super subjective. And at the end of the day, it's like, okay, is it fun? And that's different. Like I said, to you know what me and Mar know what's fun to us. You know, we know ourselves, but a lot of people don't. I mean, I feel like I'm going off a bit on that random disclaimer, but yeah, at the end of the day, no, the game's fun as shit, and that's what matters the most, right? It's just as an art piece, especially as a Boudakai tenkaichi fan. If I was given the choice this or the we already know, I keep saying this a lot, I'm gonna go back to 2. 2 is just too good. You know, to me, I feel like the song helped really elevate the fun, you know, and same with the sound design. But I mean, that's it. I mean, I guess that's the best way I can round it out, so I don't drag on anymore. Mar, anything else you want to add?
That's basically everything. No, we needed to say, so.
Yeah, no, I feel like I went a bit off on, like, especially, I mean, I get me going off on the whole, like, art thing and everything, it makes sense, but, like, yeah, just this last one, because, again, there's plenty of reviews, go check this one. This one's probably one of the longest reviews ever. But yeah, with that being said, Mark, thank you so much for joining me on this very long-winded review.
Hey man, no problem, man. It was a ton of fun, and appreciate you having me here.
You know, absolutely. Like I said, I think it was definitely a must-have, a Dragon Ball fan, so we can get it. And you guys see our points racked up there on the side and everything, and I'm gonna have to edit this too. This is gonna be a bit shoot. By the time we make this is the made at the 20th. I might get this done by Tuesday. You guys already know. I mean, this is literally like a 3-hour video. No, 2 hours 25. I might scrap or cut some parts, and remember, I'm adding gameplay on top and then putting segments, as I said before. So what I'm thinking of doing is making parts and then making an overall, okay, here's the full one. And it's going to get cut down to probably 2 hours, because there's probably a lot of silences. I'm a good editor. With that being said, thank you very much, Mar. Mar, you want to do your send-off, whatever your quote is?
Yeah, man, if you guys don't know what to live, your heart, legacy, and great. And other than that, this is not a competitive game. Please stop making it a competitive game.
And with that being said, this is your favorite FGC. Oh man, I should have had the chibi this whole time. What is wrong with me? I don't have the chibi up. You know, I'll put a chibi up one in the intro or some bullshit. You guys already know. This is your favorite FGC chibi. Signing off. And remember, every day is great when you're chibi.